Welcome to Holdback Rack Podcast. My name is Jessica Hare. I operate Hare Hollow Farm, and we breed boas, balls, and select colubrids.
Hi, I'm Jana King. I operate ASM Royal Tails, and I breed high-end ball pythons.
We want to share our journey navigating herpetoculture and are dedicated to promoting biohazard safety for all species. And we would love you to answer the question, what's in your holdback rack? Welcome to episode 20. Jana's here. And
Hi.
Let's see if I remember how to pronounce her name. Caila Mailloux? Mayonnaise?
Mailloux.
Mailloux! I tried a little bit.
Mailloux, please.
Mailloux,
Yes.
please.
Mailloux,
Of
please.
Joob-Joob snake fame. We're here to talk about snake stuff and not World War III. My least favorite topic currently. How are you doing, Caila, to this morning?
Good. You know, it was a great intro previously to this. So,
Oh my god, did you record any of that?
I did, but
Okay.
I don't know. It's
you
hard.
probably shouldn't post it. But
Right.
but
Sometimes
we had a
I'll
good
still
time.
I'll still like B-roll out of it and hide it at the very end of the podcast after the song, and then if true listener listens to the dumb song at the end, they'll hear like me talk about our whatever. But I think we'll just slot that out, so we'll have like a whatever. This time will be a coherent ish, us narrative.
It'll be fine.
Yeah, we're doing great.
We're good so far.
So let's go back to the beginning, because everybody starts at the beginning. That's how stories start. How did you get into the reptile hobby?
Okay, it's pretty much like the dumbest way possible. Like most people are like, "Oh yeah, I got into it like as a kid, blah blah blah." I had horses growing up, so reptiles weren't really on the radar. And then I moved into the fancy goldfish hobby. So I had like show goldfish for like 10 or 11 years. And then once my favorite goldfish gobbles passed away, I was like, okay, maybe it's time to move to something else. So I started just joining a few pet groups and seeing, what was out there. I like to do my research before I go and buy something, obviously. And I joined this meme group called Snack the Hissing Booth. And it had like 52,000 people in it, just all posting stupid memes of ball pythons. And I was like, this was years and years and years ago. And I'm like, what are these? Like, they're so adorable looking. So pretty much getting blasted full of ball python memes with their adorable snoots. And then in conjunction, looking up how ball pythons make great pets made me want to get a ball python. That led to me getting Joob-Joob. Oh my
So
god!
he is the original.
He is the He's the OG gangster of the
I love
Joob-Joob
that.
and Friends squads. This was like way more than like 6 years ago. Like I don't even know. Probably closer to like 8 or 9. But we reached out to a breeder, and I pretty much just asked him if he had a good beginner ball python that wasn't going to eat my hand when I put my hand in with it.
It's a good criteria.
He's like, oh, I have the perfect one. He said, like, he's an older snake. He was one of my first snakes that, like, ever came into my collection. But he said he's very, like, stoic, and he doesn't have a lot of personality. And I said, okay. So that breeder actually drove to our house. He came, he made sure our setup was correct and everything. And he dropped he dropped Joob-Joob off, and I had never actually seen Joob-Joob until he dropped him off. And I remember opening up the little tub that Joob-Joob was in, and he looked at me, and I immediately, it was just like love. I'm like, wow, I love you. And that started the whole hobby. And he was probably the least personable ball python. When we first got him, he hated everything. Like, he would put up with you, but he wasn't thrilled to be with you. We all have ball pythons like this, right?
For sure, they're like angry cats.
Yeah, and he would never bite you, but he wasn't particularly thrilled that you were even looking at him. And now, over the course of like how long I've had him, from all the stuff that I post on Instagram, like, he is literally my most personable snake. He's hilarious.
I was gonna say, he has a huge personality. It's funny that you were like, he had no personality when literally he's like famous for his personality.
Yeah, he had absolutely none. He was probably the world's most boring ball python when I first got him. And he was so shy, you couldn't even put your hand near his head. He would just like fling it backwards. And now I can do whatever I want to him. Like he's when people say that you can't bond with reptiles, I argue that just based on what I've seen with myself and Joob-Joob, because he's turned out to be such a great animal over the course of the time that I've had him.
Yeah, my 9-year-old fiercely debates this topic about how you can't bond and have a relationship with reptiles. She is a firm believer that you can have a bond with them, and even if they don't have that part of their brain, they can't bond. And she was like, maybe we just don't understand where in their brain they create bonds. She's like, but in her own personal experience, like she has a very strong bond and she's seen other people bond with them. And so she's like, that is fake news. I do not believe it.
I think it's extremely different than when you're talking about bonding with like a cat or a dog. But I think that these animals can definitely learn how to trust you. They smell you. They know that you're not going to hurt them. And they kind of know that like you're their person looking after them. Of course, like I wouldn't say, oh, Joob-Joob's a dog. I can be like, come here, Joob-Joob. Like you'll run over. As strong of a relationship that you can have with an animal, that would be me and Joob-Joob. I absolutely love him. There would be no amount of money in the entire world that someone could give me that I would ever go, yes, I'll trade you that amount of money for Joob-Joob.
Right. He's a member of the family.
Yes, he is my absolute love, the love of my life. Sorry, husband.
Dang it.
Nobody needs men when they have snakes.
Right.
It's true. So you just started to get more sort of over that 6-year period, more ball pythons?
Yeah, so basically I had always really liked pieds. So for my first ball python, I knew that it was important that I just had a snake that I could be comfortable with and learn with. So that's what I did. I had Joob-Joob for more than a year before I ended up getting Cinnamon Bun. And Cinnamon Bun was my dream pied. And I ended up going and picking him out. He was an older snake, quite old, in his teens. Right. And he was an owner surrender. So he had been dropped off at a breeder friend that I had made. And the breeder friend, had pretty much just left him in his Exoterra that he had gotten dropped off in. And he said, I have a pied here that's literally huge. He said, it's a big, thick old pied. And would you like this snake? And this was right before we left for Christmas holidays. And I remember we went down to see the snake and on our way to going to see our family for the holidays. And I remember looking at Kyle and I was like, Kyle, this is the one. Like, this is the pied. And Kyle was like, absolutely not. We are not getting another ball python. He said, you already have Joob-Joob. And I said, yeah, but, and then I held him up and I'm like, but look at him. And that
look at his face.
Yeah, look at his face. And that didn't work. So we went home. We went home in quotations to our parents for the holidays. And Kyle ended up getting into the booze on New Year's Eve. And I just kept progressively giving him more drinks. And I was like, hey Kyle, that pied? And he was a few deep at that point. And he's like, oh yeah, the pied. And I said, I'm gonna go get it though. I said, I'm gonna go buy it. And he's like, okay, you do whatever you need to do. And that's how I got Cinnamon Bun.
That was awesome strategy right there.
Yeah. So then we brought Cinnamon Bun home and it was just him and Joob-Joob for years and years and years. And then 2019 was really the year that I started going deep into the ball pythons. I was like, wow, I'm very into these. I want them all. Got to catch them all. Load them up.
Can't just have two. Yep.
Yeah, you can't have two. We ended up getting Kyle his first ball python, and it turned out to be one of those nightmare snakes that is just horrible when you reach into its enclosure and it's just meh, very defensive. So then we traded him for an adult banana that we named Banana. So our third snake was Banana from our friends at KB Reptiles. We absolutely love them. then it just went downhill from there. We got a rack system after that, and it was game over. Once we got the rack system, it was like, uh-oh.
Oh, now we have to fill it.
Yeah.
Well, we got so we got the first rack that I ever had was my 41 quart, and it had 7 bins. And I convinced Kyle to split this PVC rack with me, and he said that he would, under the pretense that we did not immediately fill it up with any snakes. He said, I just want it to be a quarantine for the like, if, you know, we're cleaning a bin and we need to put a snake in it for a day or two for like cinnamon bun, Joob-Joob, and banana. And I said, okay, no problem. We got the rack, and I kid you not, the next day I went out and bought Madame S'mores.
Oh,
Here
no.
you go.
Oh, I totally thought, yep.
So
Why is it that the second snake is always so hard to sell, but the 10th snake, they're just like, by that point, they're used to it.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, yeah, he did give me heck for bringing home Madame S'mores. He was like, you can't bring home snakes without talking to me first. So now when I bring home snakes, I tell him it's coming home. And that's like, it's me talking to him about it.
They just let you know, here's your
Just let
little
you know.
memo. This is happening.
And you have no ambitions to breed or whatever, so these are all just pets. Is that correct?
So we
Or-
do at this point. So
I was going to say your new
basically-
girls that you got from the U.S.
Yeah, so that's kind of what I'm leading into. So we got Madame S'mores, and then we got Luke Snackwalker. Lucas is Kyle's snake that we went and picked out for him, and he's one of my top favorites. Love him. And all of these snakes that we were bringing in were essentially just like retired breeders. So they were older snakes that, you know, breeders just didn't have a use for anymore, and they wanted them to go live somewhere nice, in quotations. Or they were just a lot of breeder males.
Right.
Madame S'mores was our lone female for a very long time. And then I kind of decided, I love this so much. I already run my own business as a full-time job. I run a convention business selling like video game merchandise. So I said, like, what would be the harm in starting up another business? We could just start up a reptile thing. So I kind of started up Joob-Joob and Friends, more so as a thing to help new keepers with their husbandry, because I find with the ball pythons, I don't know if it's like this in other communities, I always tell people I will never give husbandry advice on any other species because I know nothing about them, but I pride myself on being extremely educated with python regis. And I'm like, you know, there are so many different groups that one group over here is telling you to keep them in 4 feet by 2 feet by 2 feet. And then we have another group that's like, keep them in 10 gallons for their entire life. And I said, it's very frustrating for new keepers coming into the hobby that they can't just go, here's what I've got right now. How do we work with this? Because everyone has a differing opinion. So that's what I tried to make Joob-Joob and Friends into at first, was more so just a place that people could come and feel comfortable talking about husbandry and what they needed to do to correct their husbandry for their animals. At this point, I feel like it's important that we have breeders that are actively talking about the Nidovirus issue, that are knowledgeable about like Cryptosporidium, arenavirus, all of that stuff. So I said, why not breed on a small scale, have an entire collection that's Nido-free, and then people can buy from us and be assured that what they're getting is a healthy animal because it doesn't transmit vertically. And we've tested every single snake in our collection multiple times. So we know that we're providing you a healthy animal. And that's really the end goal of where I want Joob-Joob and Friends to be at. I would like to focus on the TSK Xanthics because I think black and white ball pythons are amazing. And I would like to provide beautiful, good quality animals that are healthy so that people don't have to go through what I went through.
Nice.
Absolutely. That leads really nicely into our second question, which is, what is your Nido story?
Oh, the Nido story. So in 2019, as I said, we were buying snakes. And we weren't like going out like some people and buying like 10 at a time. But we were getting, you know, like a few snakes I think we bought like 4 snakes for the entire year, and that was a lot of snakes for us. So we had bought Madame S'mores, Lucas, we bought Popsicle, the Dreamsicle, and then we bought Darth, our cinnamon Casper. He was our last snake that we bought in 2019. So we got him at an expo in September of 2019. We brought him home, did the typical quarantine, and at this point, I had no idea that Nidovirus existed. Because this is not something, even when I went to the expo yesterday and I purchased a snake at the expo, and I asked the breeder, are you okay if I test this animal for Nidovirus? And what happens if this animal comes back positive? And he didn't really know anything about Nido. And this is with me pushing this topic so hard. And we still have breeders who they don't know anything about it because it's very... like it's not really discussed as much as it should be in the community. And I find that the green tree people, they really talk about it. The retic community really talks about it. But the ball python people are just like, no, we're not going to do anything. Just keep going.
It's
keep
a very
making
taboo.
money.
It's a very taboo campfire ghost story is how it's played off.
It is. So I mean,
yeah. Or they don't even know what it is at all, which is the other option.
And that was the thing. Like, he had boas. He had heard of arenavirus because we talked about that. But the Nidovirus, he said, I've never had anyone ask me that question before. And he agreed, like, if the animal came back positive, no problem. He's like, we'll discuss it. So that made me feel good about buying it. And it's a juvenile. I think it's not going to pop positive. It's just crazy to me that there are still so many people that don't know about this, especially when I feel like all I do is vomit Nidovirus information to everybody. I'm like, Nidovirus. And like, there's still people, they don't know. And so for us, we had no idea. We thought we were quarantining for the typical mites and any prevalent RI symptoms. So like the snake, open mouth breathing, having a lot of mucus, all of that stuff. And we never saw that with this animal. So we had him in our 41 quart quarantine for months. He was perfectly healthy. So we moved him into an Exoterra because we were like, okay, cool, you're good. We'll still keep you on your own, which was so good. Thank goodness he did not go into one of our rack systems with all the other snakes, but he went into a glass Exoterra beside, guess who, Cinnamon Bun. So him and Cinnamon Bun were directly beside each other, and unfortunately, Cinnamon Bun happened to be our dumpster snake. So Darth had always been on live. He was an adult, and we were having kind of a heck of a time transitioning him onto frozen thawed. And I would literally leave his frozen thawed rat like in there underneath the ceramic heat emitter, like sitting on his hide, sitting inside his hide. And once every 2 weeks, he'd eat it, and then he wouldn't eat it. So we didn't know. Any rat that he rejected went to Cinnamon Bun. We were like, okay, you didn't eat it, but you look fine. We'll give it to Cinnamon Bun. And I'll never stop blaming myself for it. Because
it's almost encouraged. Like, don't waste the life of the rat. Give it to your dumpster snake who is always going to eat it. Because no one's talking about Nido. No one says don't cross-contaminate the food. Like, that is not talked about anywhere.
Nowhere. Like, even when I went to the facility that I got Darth from, if one snake didn't eat a live rat within 10 minutes, he just pick up the rat and throw it in another bin and close the bin. And nobody cares about biosecurity with this stuff. So I didn't think anything of it. I took the rat out and I would blow dry it again. And I said, anything that would be on the rat, I'd blow dry it and the heat would kill it. Of course not. So then I gave it to Cinnamon Bun. I kind of noticed in the summer, we had been blasting Cinnamon Bun with these rats for months. And I noticed in the summer, Cinnamon Bun I just told Kyle, I said, he doesn't really look like he has anything wrong with him. But I said, he's just acting like really lethargic. And I said, because I know the snakes very well. I spend a lot of time with them. And I said, there's something off with Cinnamon Bun. Kyle said, I don't think so. Like, maybe he's just getting old because he was getting pretty old at this point. Like, he was up there. He was in his late teens. And I said, maybe not. So September of 2020 was when we got our huge, Freedom Breeder enclosures. So like those big, like 50-inch by 30-inch bins.
Mm-hmm.
And
which are amazing.
thank you. I had a lot of controversy because I was the first person to ever do something like this with making these like big rack systems into almost like a PVC setup. Because really, like, they're PVC huge bin, it's the same thing. Like, I don't know.
Right, yours is like a stacked Viv set, but easier.
Yeah, it's the same thing except with UVB, but that's a whole other topic. But anyways, all of these snakes are retired breeders, so I thought this is a good option for them. They'll still feel comfortable. It's a rack, but it gives them a lot of room to explore and lots of hides and all of that. I transitioned all of the snakes into the Freedom breeders in September of 2021. Or sorry, September 2020. Apologies. And I had a lot of controversy from people saying that they were going to get sick, that they weren't going to eat, blah, blah, blah. So imagine my surprise when Cinnamon Bun, 3 weeks after us moving him, came down with the worst RI I've ever seen. We had never had RIs in our collection ever. Like, I'd never even seen one. But I checked their mouths, once a month just to make sure there's no abscesses or anything going on. And he was sick, like so sick. Yeah, so I do the mouth checks fairly frequently just because I use forest floor as well. So I want to make sure they don't have any like little pointy things stuck in their mouths or anything like that. So long story short, he was super sick with an RI. He was open mouth breathing, had the drool, the excess mucus, everything. We took him to a vet. The first vet we went to really had no idea what they were doing. They prescribed him ceftazidime for 3 weeks. We got to week 2 and the snake was so bad I literally thought he was going to die. So I went to a different vet because the ceftazidime was just doing nothing. And I took both snakes to a different vet. And I took Darth as well because after that 2 weeks of Cinnamon Bun being on medication, Darth started to get a lot of excess clear saliva. And that snake had always had a little bit of excess clear saliva, but it was nothing like that I would be concerned about. I even reached out to the breeder and he wrote me back and said, "It's your humidity," which it's not, but okay.
Okay. Good talk.
Yeah, good talk. So, but other than that, like, Darth had been completely healthy and he still was, but he just had way more spit than normal. So I figured that I would take him into the vet as well. So because Cinnamon Bun had been on medication, they didn't culture him because they said it would mess up the culture results. So they cultured Darth with like a gram-positive negative bacterial culture. He came back with just a little bit of elevated flora, natural flora in the mouth. Nothing that's concerning at all. But the vet said, it must be this because it came back on the bacterial culture. So we're going to give you enrofloxacin or Baytril, whatever you want to say. So at first he wanted to give me oral Baytril for both snakes. And I said, like, this one is ready to die when I looked at Cinnamon Bun. So I said, there's no way in hell I'm going to orally give this animal Baytril. Like, it's not going to happen. So I said, can you give me diluted injections? And then he agreed. And at that point, I felt like I was pretty much my own veterinarian because...
Oh my gosh, yeah, because you were telling him what you need.
It wasn't going well. But, in Canada, exotics aren't as big down here. So I would say the vets see a heck of a lot more cats and dogs. Both snakes were on Baytril from October until December, the end of December. So like 3 months of Baytril. And
wow.
We kept going. Thankfully, the vet kept taking them back in without charging me appointment fees because it was the same issue over and over. But I was getting so frustrated because it's just all this money on medication. The snakes were not getting better. We had them in quarantine in a rack. We had their heat boosted up to like 94, 95. And we were giving them like steam baths every night because Cinnamon Bun couldn't even breathe. He was just sucking air like as hard as he could. And throughout this entire process, Darth was actually still okay. Like, I always tell people, if I was a sketch bag, I could have probably just put him on an expo table and sold him. That's how okay he looked.
For sure. And someone with less ethics, people have done this.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, it's crazy to see. They both ended up having Nidovirus. So it's crazy to see how the Nidovirus affected one snake versus another snake. And this is the exact same strain of Nido, right?
Right.
So is it age? Because Cinnamon Bun was significantly older than Darth, that it just really tanked his immune system? I'm not sure. But in December, I was getting just completely put out. It was hard. I'm injecting these snakes every day, and they hate you for it. And, you know, you just feel so bad because
it's
you don't know what to
emotionally
do.
hard, right?
You don't know what to do. So I ended up reaching out to Stall Veterinary Services in Virginia in the USA. And I said, you know, I'm in Canada and I have no way to get these snakes to you, obviously, because you're in Virginia. But I said, I'm at a complete loss and I need your help, because I said, I don't know what to do. Like, I said, I'm at a point where, like, I just can't do anything more for these animals. I remember the vet wrote me back from there and they said, you need to test for Nidovirus. They said almost every snake coming through here right now, especially ball pythons, we're sending them over to Fish Head Diagnostics and we're getting them to test for Nido, because they said almost everyone's coming back positive. I said,
wait, so how many months are you into this sick journey before someone even brings up the word Nido?
3. And our vets here
3.
didn't even know what it was.
And the timing of this is like particularly interesting. Sorry, not to interrupt, because this was after like the Southeast Carpet Fest Nido talk and like some USA sort of public discussions of Nido, but somehow it still hadn't made it to Canada, like at the hobby level. So that's interesting to me.
Not at all.
Right.
And it wasn't until we're literally the Nidovirus people now. I don't know if I want to be named as that, but that's what we are, because I push this so hard with people. But this was heartbreaking for everyone to go through. I mean, these aren't just animals. Like, these are my family. Like, I love them. So to see them progressively just hate interacting with me more and more, because every interaction was negative with me needling them, and it's horrible. I don't want other people to go through this. So it's not that I'm sitting here advocating for testing, going like, oh, you know, you should just test for the sake of testing. No,
right. You're not a Karen that just wants to nag everyone to death. You've had this horrific experience that you're trying to prevent because it's 100% preventable.
Exactly. I just don't want people to have to go through the same thing that I went through, because it's awful. And now, you know, like the snakes, they're derpy. I have snakes that like go in their water dishes and then they blow a bubble and then they sneeze. But every single time you hear a noise, your heart just sinks and you're like, oh my God, you know? Like, I would say like there's like a Nido PTSD that kind of happens from
absolutely, yeah,
collection. So after we had talked with Stall Veterinary Services and the vet there, we were headed home for the Christmas. So we went for 4 days, and the snakes were looking okay at that point. This whole thing, because I was very public about what was going on, so you can follow the whole timeline of this on my Instagram. I didn't delete anything. So I had actually made a video that was saying like Cinnamon Bun's last injection, blah, blah, blah. And this was before I knew about if they tested positive, because we hadn't tested yet. So I said, Cinnamon Bun's last shot, you know, both snakes are looking really good. And on the video, I actually popped Darth's mouth open. And I make a comment in the video because you can see that there's still a bunch of clear, stringy saliva in his mouth. And I'm like, you know, the mouth looks pretty healthy, but I said, like, he's still got a little bit of saliva in there. And they were pretty good, but they weren't 100%. We went for Christmas for 4 days, and we came back, and Cinnamon Bun was right at the exact same point that he had started at. Just totally down and out. We did the Nido test. We got them back. They both tested positive on their first round. And at that point, I wanted to learn a little bit more about Nido and talk with Fishhead and stuff like that before making that announcement. So I announced on Instagram, because I've quite a big following. So I had, you know, hundreds of people messaging me every day asking how these snakes were.
Right. Totally invested.
Yeah, totally invested. And I made a video and I said, the snakes aren't doing well and I'm going to have to take them to the vet tomorrow. And I had known at that point that I had made the appointment to have them euthanized. I couldn't deal with all the Instagram people messaging me being like, I'm so sorry. Like, blah,
Right.
blah, blah.
Right.
You weren't ready for it to be public and having to deal with other people's emotions when you still had to deal with yours.
Exactly. So due to COVID here, only one person can go in with them. So Darth was Kyle's snake, so it was kind of a shame that he didn't get to go in with him. But I ended up going in with both snakes. I said I want to make sure that they've passed away because I know that reptiles metabolize things differently. So I said I want you to show me both of the snakes after they're euthanized to the vet. I said I want to make sure that they're dead because I can't bring them home like they're virus filled. They brought the dead animals in. Like the whole thing is just, it's awful. And the vet said I can do a complimentary necropsy on these animals because he said I know that this has been quite a journey. And the long deterioration on Cinnamon Bun, like it was rapid. Like I've never seen anything like it. It was so bad compared to Darth, who had this virus for however long he had it.
Yeah, it could have been years.
Bringing it to our collection. And Cinnamon Bun, I mean, it really affected the two snakes completely differently. It was kind of hard because in the moment, like I thought that the results were very interesting and blah, blah, blah. So I kind of had like 50%, like I'm dealing with the loss of these two animals versus 50%. Like, wow, this is really interesting. I remember getting in my van and I was going to film like just a quick little Instagram thing to tell people that I'd euthanized the snakes. Sorry, I'm just trying to get through this. It still really bothers me. And
Yeah,
You're all right.
You're okay. Take your time.
I literally just broke down. I just broke down in my van. And I said, I had to euthanize them. And I said, this has been a really hard day. And yeah, like it was tough. And I was literally crying in this video that I made, being like, this is so hard. I want to talk about what happened with these animals, but I need a little bit of time to process this. So I said, if you guys could just give me a few days, that would be great. So I posted this video, and the biggest, worst blow of all of it was the breeder of Darth watched that video, obviously. The next day, he posted on his Instagram with a meme that had a bunch of clown faces on it. And he was like, it's really sad when people kill their animals from having too large of enclosures and taking them outside. Yeah. And I
fucking dick.
Believe it. Yeah. I was just like, I was sitting here, like literally losing my mind. My boss, because at the time I'd found work outside of my small business because we were in like lockdown. So I'd found work, and my boss had literally given me a week off work because I couldn't even function when I went in there on the Monday.
Well, like, right, you had to euthanize family members.
I had the snakes euthanized on a Saturday, and I couldn't even, like, I went to work and I was messing up every single order that was coming through our till. And he was like, you need to just go home. And I saw this literally the day after. So I reached out to that breeder because I was going to reach out to both breeders. And the difference is now the breeder of Cinnamon Bun wasn't actually the breeder. And Cinnamon Bun obviously had no contact with any of his snakes because he got dropped off as an owner surrender. Yeah, right. So there was kind of a story behind that where he was like a girl snake and she had passed away and the parents just didn't really want to. Yeah, they just didn't really want to like look at the snake anymore. Like it was just a hard thing because she liked the snake so much. So they had asked that guy to find a good home for the snake, and then we ended up being that home. So it was really devastating that I killed Cinnamon Bun pretty much because he was one of my favorite snakes. So I reached out to the guy that we had got Cinnamon Bun from. He was so nice. And I said, I know I've tagged you in like every single post with Cinnamon Bun. And I said, I really don't want this to come back and affect you. But I said, like, I really want to talk about the Nidovirus thing. And he said, I want you to talk about it. He said, that's so important that people know about this. And he said, I know my collection is healthy. He's a very, very small breeder. And he said, we haven't had RIs or anything. But he said, that's so sad. And he said, you guys gave Cinnamon Bun a great home. And I appreciate everything that you did for him over the years. And I said, thank you. What a 180 to the other breeder that we got Darth from, who was like, clown meme, you killed your animals via having too large of an enclosure and taking them outside. And then so I sent him a Facebook message to his personal Facebook, and I said, hey, just wanted to let you know that we didn't kill Darth by taking him outside or having him in too large of an enclosure. I said, your snake was euthanized due to testing positive for serpentovirus. And I said, I'm almost 100% certain that serpentovirus came from your facility. So I said, maybe the next time you want to post clown memes, you'll take your head out of your ass and you'll come and talk to me first instead of blasting me on your Instagram. And he left me on red forever. That's the last conversation I've ever had, conversation in quotations, the last thing I've ever said to him since January of last year, 2021.
If he, just playing devil's advocate, if he reached out to you and apologized, would that be enough? Or are you still, because he's sort of, I don't know, publicly changed his tune on serpentovirus a little bit in the last year-ish. So maybe he feels bad.
No, I don't.
I'm giving him some credit here.
I don't think he has the capacity to feel bad. I'm going to be honest with you. So we got our first snake from him, Popsicle the Dreamsicle. As I said, that snake tested negative. Every other snake in our collection tested negative. We got our first snake from him in 2019. Then we got Darth. Then we actually had gotten another snake from him, a female that we only had for a few months. It is Billy. We can just say it. It's Billy from Mutation Creation. Pretty much, like, we're 100% sure that Nidovirus came from him. And I will preface that by saying, like, Billy isn't ground zero for Nidovirus. It's not like his facility is the factory where the Nidovirus was made. He does a lot of import and export of these animals. So it's going to be what it's going to be, that you will have some animals that come in and that are sick and blah, blah, blah. But I feel like almost every transaction with me, like out of the 3 that I did, 2 were handled so poorly. And as someone who runs their own business, and I run my own business successfully, there's a reason I'm buying Dreamsicles and Freedom Breeders for fun as a pet owner. I've run my business for 8+ years, and we have hundreds of reviews that are all 5 stars, because my thing with my business is I'm very transparent with my customers. Like, if I have like an unofficial Pokemon plushie or something, I will tell my client before they hand me money that the product isn't licensed. It's a trust that I've built up with clients over a period of time. And I said, I cannot believe someone with as large of a following as he has, with the amount of business that he does. He bragged to me back in the day when we were at the facility that, he's grossing over $1 million a year. How is your customer service this bad? Like, what? So to say the least, my transactions have not been good. Nidovirus was just the icing on the cake for us. So I wouldn't expect an apology on that, because I never got an apology about anything else that happened either. So
do you feel like people in Canada are still really reluctant to test?
It's better now. It's better now for people because at least we have an option. So when I was doing my testing with Fishhead, we were having to send everything back CITES over the border, and it was quite expensive. I like using Fishhead because they have like the little bottle of stabilizer fluid that they put the sample in. So because we're not sending them back, they can be delayed like 4 or 5 days sometimes with our mailing system going internationally. It was good to go with Fishhead because they had that to keep the samples viable.
Right.
But it was very expensive.
So what makes it expensive? The shipping cost or
the shipping cost? So the shipping cost, you could fit as many tests as you want into the shipping cost. But if you were only testing 2 animals, you had a $250 USD shipping fee. So
Wow.
yeah, you had to allocate that, like, if depending on the foreign exchange, that's like 300 and some dollars Canadian just for a shipping fee, and then you have the testing fee on top. So for me, like, this was a very expensive process, testing and retesting all of our animals. And we're at a point now where every single snake that we have, except for the new one that I just got yesterday, has cleared. They're all negative multiple times. They're good to go. But it's been a process. So I was super happy when University of Guelph announced that they were opening up a new serpentovirus PCR testing program. I said, this is great. Now Canadians won't have that like astronomical shipping fee. We can just get the test supplies sent to us from Fishhead Diagnostics, and then we can swab and then send off the samples and they'll go to Guelph. So it's a lot simpler. They get the samples way quicker, and it does make testing more accessible. Although I just finished going through this process, I was kind of like our tester to make sure that they did everything correctly. So it's really something new for Canadians. So I'm not sure that many people know about it yet. I did make a video on it at Joob-Joob the Snack on Instagram if you want to check out the process of how to do the Canadian nidovirus testing. I lay out all the paperwork that you need, how to pack your samples, what comes in the testing kit, and then how to ship the samples to Guelph. So it's a pretty...
Did you put that as a YouTube video also, or just on Instagram?
Just on Instagram. I don't have a YouTube channel, although I should really make one.
Yeah, because Instagram isn't like evergreen. I would recommend you to just like stick it up on a YouTube, and then I can link it in the show notes. Like I can link the Instagram one too, but Instagram feed just goes away eventually, and people don't necessarily like go look for it again. But people can search in YouTube easier.
Yeah, and
Instagram.
it does have a link because I did post it under like IGTV.
Okay.
So we have an IGTV channel. If you go like the middle of our profile on Joob-Joob the Snack, you click like videos and then you click series. It'll have a drop down that says like the ball python channel. So I have a couple nidovirus videos on there, how to test. I have that video of Cinnamon Bun and Darth. If anyone wants to look at that one that I talked about where, I'm like, oh, yay, the last injection. And we look at Darth's mouth and stuff. If anyone wants to see what that excess saliva looks like in there, you can see it in that video. And there's lots of other videos on there, too, like for new keepers with humidity issues and stuff like that. So they're not good quality videos because I have no editing abilities, but they're about as good as, yeah, they're about as good as I can do with iMovie and me recording it on my phone. So
well, I mean, it's better. You can't get that kind of content anywhere else. So with this new snake that you just bought yesterday, will you be going through Guelph? Is that how you say it?
Guelph.
Guelph.
Yeah.
Okay. So you were pretty satisfied with how it went, how your first testing with them went?
Yeah, so we touched base. So as I said, we're pretty much the Canadian nidovirus people at this point. So
yeah, Canadian ambassador to nidovirus.
Pretty much. So we touched base a lot with Pia and Dr. Susan Fogelson from Fishhead Diagnostics. Dr. Susan reached out to me and she said, I got your test results, like they were negative, but she said, I want to make sure that Guelph is running their assay correctly before I send you finalized results. Because she said, if they're not, then we'll redo the test. And I said, okay, perfect. She reviewed everything along with the lab at University of Guelph. And she wrote me back last week and said that she was very happy with how they're running everything.
Right.
So she said, I'm very happy with how they're running everything. And essentially, here's your results. And we're good to go to get this off the ground for other people who want to test.
Right. So she basically gave it the Fishhead stamp of approval.
Yes. Yeah. So
wonderful.
I have that in my email.
Did she tell you if they were using the same primers, targeting the same regions as Fishhead, or if they had independently come to their primer set?
They are doing almost the exact same that Fishhead is doing. Like everything that they're running at Guelph is based off of Fishhead. Like they're pretty much partnered with each other.
Okay, so they shared, because it's proprietary knowledge, so they won't tell normal humans. But I didn't know if they had shared their primers with each other, or if
They do.
Okay.
They do. So I actually talked with them about that as well. So Pia said that they are running the tests at Guelph, literally the exact same as University of Georgia, because Fishhead, like, they outsourced their testing to University of Georgia. So they said they're running the exact same test. That's why, like, when we're getting supplies for University of Guelph, you go through Fishhead Diagnostics to get the supplies. And I talk about that in the video as well, because Dr. Susan is your acting vet. So University of Guelph, if you send in Nidovirus stuff, they want you to, they want a veterinarian to submit it. But if you go through Fishhead, you order their test kits, they get shipped to you in Canada. All of the University of Guelph paperwork is pre-filled out with Fishhead Diagnostics and Dr. Susan. So you don't have to go see a vet first. You can just get your Nidovirus tests in.
Good.
You're
That's
under
good.
her umbrella of veterinary services through
Exactly. Yeah. So you're basically, like, the tests are $93.99 USD per test, but you have to look at, like, what's in that. Like, you're getting the lab running the assay in that, you're getting the supplies from Fishhead in that, and then you're getting Dr. Fogelson's time to talk with you about Nido. She's going to send you over the results, because nothing comes from University of Guelph. It's all Fishhead doing the communicating with you.
Okay. So it's essentially, it's another university
of Georgia.
The sister university that Fishhead is using to get results for Canadians.
Exactly, correct. So everything, the only thing that the keeper is doing is swabbing their animal and sending it to University of Guelph. That's it. Other than that, it's all Fishhead dealing with everything.
Oh, see, I didn't understand that. That's wonderful.
Yeah, so the $93.99 USD, that includes all of that. And then you have a shipping fee on top of that when you go to checkout. And I did all this in my video. I went to their website. I showed, how you click on the Canadian Nidovirus testing kit. You can add as many as you want into the shipping fee. So for me to get 5 tests from Fishhead Diagnostics in the States to me in Ontario, Canada, it was about $60 USD. But that singular shipping fee that you pay for, it seems expensive, but it is covering 2 shipping costs. So it's covering getting the supplies from Fishhead to your home in Canada, and then your package also comes with a prepaid label so that you can just drop off your test to, like, a UPS or a FedEx, whatever one you get the prepaid label for. And it's also included in that shipping fee.
And then the test kit itself is, you said it was $93?
Yeah, $93.99 USD. And then the shipping fee was around $60 USD, but that encompasses all of the shipping. So that encompasses getting the test from Fishhead to us, and then us shipping them off to the University of Guelph.
And that's much, much more affordable than shipping it back over the U.S. border.
Oh, yeah, because you have to rush ship it via FedEx. And even when you rush ship it, like, our last batch, so I've done a few of these tests for clients as well who just have reached out that live near me, and they're like, we're not comfortable.
Right.
Yeah, we're like, they said we want accurate samples and we're not comfortable with doing it ourselves. So Kyle and I have popped over to their house, met lots of cool people doing that. So
for sure, yeah.
But the last batch that we sent over, so we did 3 of their snakes, they're all pet, and they had shipped them back to the States, and this was last year, and then their stuff actually the border wouldn't let it through. They were just like, no, we're not letting these biological samples through, and then they got sent back to Canada. So
oh my gosh.
So, like, at this point, like, I don't know, I wouldn't want to risk paying all that money. Now, Fishhead was really good. Like, they refunded them the cost of the shipping and stuff like that, right? Because there's nothing you can do.
That's amazing. Yeah,
and that's where the 5 tests come from that I ordered. So I ordered 3 tests for them, and then I did my 2 Axanthic females. So I went back to their house 7 or 8 months later, redid the tests, and then we shipped all of ours off to Guelph. And they did their 3 tests as well with Guelph. So it went well for all 5 tests, and it's a lot better than having to send back to the States, where as of now you could possibly get your samples rejected, and what a crime that is. I mean, his snakes weren't actively sick.
But if they had been, then you would have been out of luck.
Well, yeah, you're SOL, right? Like, what do? You have sick animals. You got to take them to the vet here and just get some more Baytril that's not going to work. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I've experienced that myself.
Yeah, no excuses, Canadian listeners.
Yeah.
You have a viable option now to test. I've had a lot of Canadian people be like, well, that's a nice idea, but I can't, or I don't want to spend the money. But now you have
to Caila.
Yeah, well, and I'm also offering people 10% off as well. So they can get 10% off of every single test kit.
What was your code?
It's Joob-Joob, Joob, all in capitals. If you apply it to your order at checkout on the Fishhead Diagnostics website, you will get 10% off your entire order on your first try. So, like, for your first order. So if you have, like, 10 breeder females and they've got seasonal RIs, you might just want to order 10 tests,
right?
And make sure your snakes aren't sick. Like, and it's not like Fishhead makes money off these tests. They do not. Like, they're not making money. So even for me to be offering an incentive on top of what they're already priced at, like, it's pretty good.
Right, and people are saying, like, I have heard that, like, oh, it's a conspiracy to get the labs more money. Like, they not. Really, like, we're lucky they're doing it. Like, they're really not like, yes, I'm taking this all the way to the bank. Let's convince everybody to do Nido.
Yeah, it's not for sure. Like, Pia's told me that they don't make money off the test. She said anything that they make, which might be like a few dollars, she said goes right back into just doing research on Nidovirus. Like, she has a full-time job outside of Fishhead Diagnostics. Like, she's not just sitting here being like, oh yeah, look at the money from my Serpentovirus PCR
just roll it in.
Like, in. Like, no. Just even from speaking with her, I feel like her and I have become pretty close friends over the last year. Even when we got our test results, like, I had a good cry with her. She was literally in her pajamas on a video chat with me. Like,
that's amazing.
9:00 at night, having a breakdown on the phone with her. So, and I've heard her talk about all of her snakes and how she got into this. It's the same thing. Like, they bought a whole bunch of, I believe it was like green tree pythons, and they ended up all being like Nido positive. And now she has like a Nido positive facility that's like outside of her main collection. And
she's the one that maintains a Nido colony, right?
Yes, she does. Yeah, she maintains the Nido colony, and she's like, I don't do this to like make a bunch of money off of it. It's because we want to advance research on this.
Yeah, and they lost a lot of money from Nido, so it's not like if they wanted to like pretend that what wasn't a problem or whatever to make money, they would have just resold all those green tree pythons from Rico and pretended they weren't sick. But instead they documented that they were sick. So like there's no financial incentive to coming out about something bad like this. And the people who think that are so confused about what it actually means to be sort of brave and open, because it's mostly just sort of like a fucking scarlet letter at this point.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Well, and like anybody who is advocating because they've had personal loss and they've suffered from this virus and their animals have suffered, they are definitely not positive side money gain from this experience. All of us have lost money to this virus, and all of us have lost like animals that are our friends. I mean, it's not like, I just don't understand how they even get from we're trying to tell you, we're trying to help save your animals, we're trying to help save the community of animals from having to go through this, to, oh, you're out for money.
That's the thing. Like, none of us are doing this for fun. And I
not at all. It's not fun.
It's not fun. I get so many, like, well, we currently have like 23,000 plus followers on Joob-Joob.
That's amazing. That's awesome.
Thank you. It is awesome, except when you get 50 plus messages a week. And
hopefully they're not bad messages.
Well, we get everything from like, oh, my snake has an RI, what should I do, to like, oh, my snake got cooked because my heat pad doesn't have a thermostat. It's everything. We get messages, they're just like, hey, I love what you're doing. But this is like a second full-time job doing this. And I don't get anything out of doing this except for the satisfaction of helping other people in the community. So I do have not very many, but I do have a few people who are like, oh, Caila is just doing this for clout, or, Caila is just doing this because she thinks she has a holier than thou attitude about her snakes. I've been told that about someone else. And I'm like, how, dude? Joob-Joob was $100. Like, what? How
Right.
is he a holier than thou attitude about, like, he's my favorite snake and he's my cheapest, crappiest morph? Like, I don't know.
Well, and you spent more on their care and upkeep and enclosures than you spent on actual
The
snakes.
The snakes. And I said, between Cinnamon Bun and Darth, like Cinnamon Bun was at the time, like we got him a long time ago and we paid $460 for him. But that was when pieds were not like insanely expensive, but that was when single gene pieds were like, more expensive.
Yeah, like
and,
1 or 2,000.
Yeah, and Darth wasn't a super expensive snake either. And, we spent thousands of dollars on these animals, both Kyle and I. I had almost every single paycheck from my new job going to medication and, testing and blah, blah, blah for these snakes. And I had lots of people reaching out asking if I wanted financial donations. They were like, do you want to set up a GoFundMe? And I said, no hate on the people who do that, but I said no, because I brought these animals in and I am responsible for paying for their veterinary care, and they will get top of the line veterinary care. It doesn't matter what I have to do, doesn't matter how expensive those snakes were, they're going to get what they need to get. Right. And this isn't like a fun game for me. I don't understand. People think it's fun for me to go around to the booths at the expo and say, hey, have you heard about Nidovirus? Like, let's talk about it. I did that yesterday, and you have some people who you're met with hostility by doing that.
Absolutely. They don't want you to be telling them about the boogeyman under the bed. They want the boogeyman to stay under the bed.
Well, and they're like, oh, I don't worry about that in my collection. Well, I'm going to tell you what, more and more buyers are going to start worrying about this. And it's going to be, if we don't curb this, it's going to be to a point where all of these collections are like 60 to 80% infested with Nido. Like, it's at a tipping point right now with the amount of animals that we're importing and exporting in North America, Europe, wherever. We have to curb this. We have to be looking at this as a community and going, what can we do to mitigate this becoming out of control? Because it's close. There's no way that my collection with 10 snakes that are at the time, we didn't even have 10 because we didn't have the 2 girls. We had 8 snakes at the time. There's no way that my collection of 8 snakes as a pet keeper who does not breed should have had 2 snakes that are positive for Nido in it. That's a pretty bad ratio.
Absolutely.
But here we are because we have breeders who don't want to look at this and look it in the face and go, this is the reality of what's happening right now. And again, like, even when I talk about where we got Darth, I'm not sure what his stance is on Nidovirus right now, because of course I have not spoken with him. I'm not going to put words in his mouth. I know that when I first started talking about this, he said it was very expensive to test in Canada, which is the truth. It was. We have a better alternative now. But I can't see that person testing all of his adults because the cost is going to be phenomenal. But the thing is you should at least be doing your due diligence to be testing the snakes that have, in quotations, had seasonal RIs or snakes that have had symptoms, because I know I've been to that facility multiple times and saw with my own 2 eyes snakes that have RI magnets stuck on the ARS racks. And you cannot tell me that when you have magnets made that say RIs, that's not just like a couple snakes. You've got like a pile of magnets.
Right.
So You've got to, this isn't just him. This is other breeders as well that I've talked to. And they're like, oh, I have a couple snakes that have always had RIs and I treat them myself and they get better and then it comes back. Like, you guys got to test your animals here. The animals are the foundation of your business. You cannot have a good house without a solid foundation. And when your animals are crumbling and they're sick, you don't have a good foundation to your business. And you're not going to have clients that respect your business because you're selling them things that could potentially put their own collections at risk.
Yeah, your whole collection can collapse if you're not looking it in the face. With my own experience with Nido, I had a female who laid, and she just, like you said, with Cinnamon Bun, before he got really sick, he just didn't look right. She had laid and she just didn't look right. And I ignored that feeling because I was like, oh, maybe I just don't have enough experience. It's probably fine, because she didn't have RI symptoms. She just didn't quite look how my other females had looked after they laid. When she did end up within 2 weeks, she was fine. And then all of a sudden she wasn't fine and she literally died in my arms. Everybody else besides Jessica was telling me that's normal, because she did start to have a lot of saliva right before she died, literally an hour or two before she died. And they're like, oh, well, that happens in every collection. And everybody was normalizing it and everybody was making it play it off. This is just something you experience as a breeder. And Jessica's like, you need to send that animal in for necropsy. You need to run Nido. You need to test your whole collection. I've been telling you to test your collection for months. And she was literally the only person saying this is not normal. And if I had not listened to her, I ended up having 10 positive snakes in my collection. If I hadn't had started then and separated that breeding group and started testing everyone, that is colony collapse. Maybe not today, maybe not even next year, but by 2 or 3 years, everyone could have had it. And I have a pair. I do have 2 positives that are needing to be euthanized that were already pretty far advanced into the breeding season. And because the male of that pair, he is literally he's my Joob-Joob. He's my guy. I just adore him. And he's the father of that clutch. And so I kept them in their own situation. And I was thinking, oh, maybe I'll get him a Viv and I just won't interact with him and he'll be fine, because he's never shown any symptoms. That's not the reality. It's not safe to have, in my opinion, I feel like that's a personal choice. It's not safe to have him and his breeding partner in my care when I do have a collection that I need to protect. And when I am sending out snakes to other people, I just feel like that isn't good practice. And his quality of life, people say reptiles aren't friendly or whatever, but he's very take me out, hang out with me. He wants to crawl all over everything. He wants to kiss your face. He wants to spend time with you. Even now, if I'm in front of their enclosure, he is up at the front of the bin and he's like, hey, hang out with me, which I can't do because that's biosecurity. That's not safe. Even if I'm not, I only interact with his rack on one day of the week, and I don't interact with any of my other animals on that day. But it still doesn't feel safe to me to take him out and have him in my home where he could be touching my furniture or things. So it's not a good quality of life for him. And if I hadn't have listened to Jessica, if I hadn't have had Jessica telling me that, I wouldn't have pursued that. I would have just played it off as oh, this is an experience as a breeder that everybody has. And it would have literally been this silent killing death machine through my collection.
Yeah, that is so sad. I'm so sorry to hear that. I couldn't even imagine having 10. That would be a lot.
Yeah, it was a lot, but it sucked at the time, and it still sucks because I still have 2 that I need to euthanize. The other 8 were euthanized over the summer. But I am so glad I did it. I mean, I wish I had done it sooner. I wish I had been more informed. I wish when Jessica had first, you're doing at reptile shows, she has become my mentor since then, but she had been talking to me about it since we first met. And I'd just been like, oh, okay, yeah, I hear you. It's fine. I'll go order some swabs. Maybe eventually I'll start testing. It was just not a priority for me until I literally had the snake that passed away was actually named after my daughter's best friend. And literally had her die in my arms. It takes that level of, I don't know, investment, that level of pain, that level of tragedy to get you to be an advocate. And I don't want other people to have to go through that level of loss in order to see that this is a real problem.
Well, and that's exactly it. I remember after Darth and Cinnamon Bun had been euthanized that day, I came home and I told Kyle, because, you know, we had been hearing some sneezing in the snake room, and I said, snake room should be quiet tonight. And that because my first round of testing, I had done Popsicle, Darth, and Cinnamon Bun. So I didn't do all of the other snakes. And I said it should be quiet tonight. And I was so devastated. And then, oh my God, that night I saw Joob-Joob make a sneezy noise. Like, he was sitting with his head out and he made a sneezy noise. And it ended up being because he has a very elongated face for a ball python. So he gets stuck shed in his nostrils sometimes. Even if he never has a bad shed, but there'll always just be like a little bit. But I didn't comprehend that at the time, that, you know, it might have just been like a little bit of stuck shed in his nostril. And he wiped his one nostril on the glass, and he kept doing that. And then literally the next day there was like a little piece of shed that was sticking out that I grabbed with tweezers, and I'm like, oh, thank God. And then it stopped. But I was like, what a terrible time for you to do that. And I remember, I'm usually a pretty composed person, and I remember sinking to my knees in front of his enclosure and just screaming into my hands. I was like, no, it cannot be you. It cannot be you. You cannot have this, because I'm just going to feel terrible. And this leads back kind of to that question that, you know, Jessica, you asked, or I'm not sure if it was Jana or Jessica that asked it. Do you want an apology from Billy? No, like, I don't care at this point. I don't want to be on bad terms with anybody. That's not why I'm in this hobby. What I would like at this point is for him to take more responsibility with his own collection and the animals that he's sending out to people, because this can happen to anyone. And, you know, I see people buying snakes all the time. And like, I just don't want this to be another person's reality where they think they're getting, you know, their best little friend, their new snake, and they bring it home. And, you know, pet keepers with 2 snakes, they don't really think anything of it. They just, you know, play with their snakes and take them outside and, you know, do what the pet keepers are going to do. I'm very lucky that we, even before all the Nidovirus stuff, like, we had very good biosecurity, washing hands in between each animal and stuff. We messed up on the rats, and that was just not something that we thought about. And pet people aren't going to think about that. And at this point, it's not about apologizing. It's not about, you know, having a grudge who against who or what anyone's done in the past. It's how we move forward with this. And I want to see breeders taking more responsibility with this. I'm not actively sitting here going, you know, I don't like you or I hate you. Do I hold a grudge that Nidovirus came into our collection from that? No, not really. Because if I didn't find out about it then, I would have found out about it probably when we had more snakes, and that would have been worse. So at least I found out about it when I did. And there was a reason, you know. After he posted the clown meme, I had physical results, like, from the Nidovirus testing. I could have posted those on every single forum and been like, I have a physical piece of paper here that says positive on this animal. I didn't do that. I didn't talk to people about this and name anyone. I didn't do that because I wanted the focus not to be on the breeder. I wanted the focus to be on the infection, the virus itself, and how important it is, because this can come from anyone. It doesn't matter. There is no such thing as the most reputable breeder in the hobby anymore. This can come from the small guy, the big guy. It just doesn't matter. You need to test your animals upon intake. And yes, oh my God, it adds an extra $150 now with Guelph, or $160. Oh boy, who cares? this is an animal that's going to live for 20 to 30 years if you take care of it correctly. Do the work. If you can't put that money into your collection to make sure that your animals are healthy, don't breed, because you don't have money to do it properly.
Boom.
Boom, mic drop. Yeah,
Boom.
I mean, it's not about the individual breeders. It's us as an industry standing up and moving forward and recognizing this and taking ownership of it, and everyone taking ownership of the animals that they have, the animals that they are producing, the animals that they're bringing in, and being responsible. And like, people say, oh, I'm a ethical breeder, or oh, I'm a responsible breeder, and yet they know nothing of biosecurity. And or they think, oh, I'm a high-end breeder, or oh, I got this from a big name, or I got this and I spend a lot of money on this snake, so it's fine and I don't even need to quarantine it. And it's like, that is not the reality. Like, Nidovirus doesn't care if you're a $50 snake or if you're a $50,000 snake. Like, it doesn't care. And you can say, oh, well, none of my animals are sick. But unless you have like magical Nidovirus glasses that can do PCR testing just by looking at them, you don't know if your animals are sick. Like, it doesn't work like that.
Well, yeah, there's no way to tell. Like, you know, if I talk to people and they're like, oh, yeah, like I've had recurring RIs in my collection, it makes me a little more leery. Do I think that everyone needs to test? Yes, that would be a really nice reality. Do I think that every breeder should test every single breeder snake that they're working with? Like, I don't think if you're not maternally incubating, because it doesn't transmit vertically from the parents to the babies, right?
Right.
So if you're not maternally incubating, if you have a separate area for your hatchlings, you're keeping up good biosecurity, you're doing your hatchlings first, or doing them on a different day after you showered, cool. Your hatchlings are going to be golden. Like, don't even worry about it. But your breeders are what you need to be concerned about, because your breeders are the foundation of your whole business. And if your breeders are just dropping left, right, and center, or even if you have no symptoms at all, but you just don't know. You could have that one asymptomatic, like Darth, who barely had any symptoms for the majority of the time we had him. And you could have that snake and it could just rip through your entire collection. I like to call them plague walkers, where they just walk the plague through your collection and you don't know. You don't know that it's there. And
we call them typhoid Marys here.
Yeah, I call them plague walkers because they walk the plague. Like, if you touch them and you pick up a poop and then you go change another one's water dish, congratulations. You've just infected that other bin with Nidovirus. It is just there. I've had breeders tell me it is impossible to wash your hands after every single animal. Okay, get a really big thing of hand sanitizer, then put it in your snake room and hand sanitize after every animal. You've got to do better. You've got to try, because if you don't, there's going to be a time when this hits you. And I found that Elijah, he was like kind of, well, I won't even say kind of, he was very big on posting in like every single group when he got his Nido positive animals.
Yeah.
And
don't ever piss off Elijah, because he's going to come let you know.
Yeah.
Takes no prisoners.
Right.
Yeah. Well, and even I saw him back in the day, but I didn't know what Nido was. I didn't know that we were testing for it. I didn't know anything, but I saw one of his posts. He got banned from the group because he was posting about it. And
I love Elijah. I know everyone hates him and they think he's like a troll or something. But that is fucking diligence. He has been railing the whole fucking internet of snake people for 3 years now about Nido and trying to get a word out. That is some
like
big,
the whole time.
Yeah, some big ball sack energy, and I'm into it. Good job.
The whole time. And I remember seeing him post, and people would be like, oh, you know, I have a snake with an RI. And immediately Elijah would be there. Test it for Nidovirus. Test your snake for Nido. And I remember him getting like kicked out of groups, and people were replying to him and being like, this isn't even a prevalent issue. This is in like no snakes at all, blah, blah, blah. And now, like even just today, World of Ball Python's Facebook group, there's a guy on there who posted, "My snake has an RI. What should I do?" There's people offering meds from Chewy. There's people saying, take your snake to the vet, like, which you should. But I feel like I'm like the new Elijah coming in there. Okay.
Do it.
And whether
Do it, girl.
whether Elijah gets to it first or whether I get to it first, and I'm like, you need to test for Nido. And I have a moderator replying to me, and I'm not saying don't take your snake to the vet, but what I'm saying is, because I'm an advocate for vets. Even though in Canada we didn't have a good experience here with our vets, really, that we used, I owe everything to the vet at Stall, or like Sieves, in Virginia.
Yeah, Dr. Scott Stall.
Yeah, at their veterinary clinic. I owe everything to them because they're the ones who told me. So we can't say that veterinarians aren't good to go to. They are. But it is very veterinarian dependent. If you get a vet, that's very like old school and they're not up on this stuff, then they're just going to Baytril you and go home. Or I have a lot of people recommending, you need to go get a gram-positive negative bacteria test first so that they can dose out what meds. Well, that's all well and good, but as we saw with Darth, Nidovirus sometimes causes elevated flora and secondary bacterial infections because it's making the snake immunocompromised. So that's not always gonna be accurate, and maybe
it's not enough. It's not enough information for you.
Exactly. So maybe 5 or 6 years ago, our first step when our snake had RI symptoms would be to go to a vet and get a culture done and get treatment. But I think with how prevalent Nidovirus is right now, our first step should be doing a Nidovirus PCR every time. Like, it's because it is just a waste of money to go to your vet, have them dose you out a bunch of medication, and you're just jabbing your snake and it's not getting any better. Like, what? And you're just hurting the animal.
It's not going to fix the underlying virus.
Exactly. It's not fixing anything. You're better off knowing if your snake has a viral infection first. And if you rule out, because I'm not going to say they're all going to pop positive when they're symptomatic, but when they're symptomatic, they have a pretty high viral load at that point. So they're probably going to pop positive. Let's get the viral test out of the way, because that is also your cheapest thing you can do. If you're in the States, go to RAL, go to RAL. I don't care. It's cheap.
So cheap.
It's so cheap. So cheap. Go over there, get it done. Like, I can make a song about it. It's so cheap. Don't care who you go to. Like, I'm over here because Fishhead and I have a great relationship, and I love what they do. I know you guys use RAL and you swear by them, and that, like, cool beans. Go test with whoever you want. Like, I don't care.
Doesn't matter.
Yeah, we don't care either. If people want to do Fishhead, that's a great kit in the US for someone who needs a little bit of hand
better
holding.
Format for you, yeah, absolutely. Who cares? Just test. It would be so fascinating to me if there was a way to see the data of if everyone started to just, the first step is, if you see RI symptoms, is to send out a Nido test. Like, is it really, like, people think that RIs are so common in ball pythons. Is it really Nido? Is it all really Nido? Or is RI a thing that happens in ball pythons as well? Like, I want to know that answer, but we don't have that information.
This is something that, like, we've discussed at length with, like, Pia and stuff like that, because, okay, we have to think, like, you guys have been in the hobby a long time, right? Like, way back in the yonder years, we had, like, everyone keeping their snakes in, like, wooden racks, and we had, like, some really ghetto shit happening back when nobody knew what was happening with keeping exotics, because we didn't have companies, like Freedom Breeder, and we didn't have, like, focus cubed habitats giving us amazing custom PVCs, and we didn't have all of these companies accessible to us. So way back in the day, even before my time of keeping, I would say definitely RIs were going to be a thing, because temperatures were inconsistent. We didn't have a ton of really good equipment to keep exotics, because it was like a fairly new thing. It was not like keeping a dog or cat where it's pretty standard. You have these reptiles that all require certain heating and certain humidity.
And lots could have been wild caught.
Exactly. You have all of these different factors. So I feel like the older guys kind of coming up through are always going to say, oh, you need to go to the vet, get your gram-positive negative test, or just get rid of it with Baytril. Because back in their time, a lot of these RIs were husbandry related. And I'm not going to say right now that we don't have husbandry related RIs. That doesn't make any sense at all. We definitely do, because we are still seeing people who, I call it the pet store special. They bring home the pet store special, which is like their glass tank, their red bulb, their like heat mat with no thermostat, like their stick on analog gauge, like, the pet store special. We've got a ton of people bringing that stuff home still. So if you keep your snake in improper conditions, 100% you run the risk of that animal getting a respiratory infection. However, as of the last 5 years, we have seen such an increase in the trade of especially pythons. Ball pythons are one of the most traded pet reptiles in the industry. And with that trade comes one snake entering someone's collection, and then another one entering the collection, and then those snakes go out to someone else's collection. So we have all of these viral infections that are becoming much more prevalent due to how frequently these animals are traded and bought and sold, right? So It only makes sense at this point. And I get argued with it. Like, I have people arguing with me about this every time I post on World of Ball Pythons, saying, go to your vet first. I'm not saying don't go to your vet. I'm saying that your vet probably isn't going to recommend doing a Nidovirus test. So you should just do that first and get it out of the way. If your animal pops positive, you pretty much know at that point you need to euthanize it. I mean, again, as you said earlier, Jana, it's personal decision. But even with asymptomatic animals, we don't know how much lung deterioration they really have.
We don't know the long-term effects that it's having that we can't see and they can't tell us.
Correct, because reptiles are extremely good at hiding illness.
Correct.
They only show it when they're really going downhill.
Right. So we have no way of knowing it, if they are in pain or if they are suffering in any way.
We have no way of knowing. So why not get the viral test out of the way? Because it's your cheapest thing to do. Get your viral test out of the way. Then you know for sure. You can go into your vet. You can have that information and go, this animal has already tested negative for Nidovirus, which, we could do the whole panel. We can test them for arenavirus too. Cool. Get them all tested. Do your Boyd panel. But at least if they pop negative, then you can take them to the vet and you can go step 2 at that point.
Correct.
Take them
Absolutely.
to the vet. Let's get step 2 going. Let's, do the gram positive, gram negative bacterial test, because at that point it is a bacterial RI. I haven't seen fungal RIs. I know Dr. Stahl, they said that they don't see fungal RIs. Maybe if you're in enclosures filled with mold, I don't know.
Right.
But most of the time,
unique circumstances to see a fungal RI.
Correct. So most of the time it's bacterial. But I just don't like seeing when people immediately go vet, because there are going to be so many vets that don't tell you to go viral test. And as much as they are going to maybe give you a culture for the snake, it's not going to tell you what you need to know. Just as I had the example with Darth, I still have his culture, and I've posted it online many times to show what it actually says. And I'm like, this is what you're going to see. You're going to see a little bit of elevated bacteria because your snake is immunocompromised. Its body is trying to fight off everything, and it's just getting sicker, and more things are coming at it to make it sicker.
I mean, I had a similar experience to you, as I had a sick snake, and she didn't really have RI symptoms. She had excess mucus, but she had a mouth abscess or mouth swelling. It wasn't oozing or anything, but she had a swelling in her mouth, and then she had some excess saliva, so I was worried about her having an RI. And I had another snake that had an RI in the last 3 months, and so I took her in and they just immediately like, well, you had another snake, maybe your biosecurity isn't great. So, I mean, I knew that's not what it was, but they were like, okay, here's some antibiotics. Have a great day. And I gave her the antibiotics and she did not get any better or any worse. And she still had the mouth abscess. And so, I took her back in and that's when they were like, maybe she got bit by a rat. And because most of the time I do frozen thaws, but sometimes I do live. And so she had a live, maybe in the month prior to me noticing the abscess. And so they're like, let's try a different antibiotic because maybe the first one we gave you wouldn't help the abscess. And then at that point, I think that I had a really good vet. And I think at that point they said, in the long term, there are other things we can talk about like viruses, but they didn't like, it was not step one, which it should have been. And so, I mean, if it had been step one, this is over like a 3-month process. If it had been step one, then I am a breeder. I am breeding snakes. Obviously, a sick snake is immediately pulled into quarantine and not breeding anymore, but they had bred previously. And so it's like if I had had more information or more knowledge and that had been my step one, maybe I could have prevented some of those other snakes from getting Nido. But it's not a step one with veterinary process. Their first step is to throw antibiotics at you. And so I do think as an industry, as a hobby, that should be step one, check for Nido. And then if it's not Nido, great, move on to step two.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's all I'm saying. I feel like people sometimes think that I'm saying don't go to a vet. No, I want you to have a good vet. I want you to have a great relationship with your vet. Even my vet here, when we euthanized the snakes, I was not in a good mental state, but I still, when we did the necropsy and everything, I actually was showing him on my phone, like the Nidovirus results. And we were talking about serpentovirus. And he was like, wow, I've never heard of that being in Canada. And I said, yeah, like this is a thing now that, you're going to have to look into testing with people because he's listed as an exotics clinic. I said, we're to a point where like, if my collection has this and we're very small, we don't breed currently. I said, like, how many other people are getting this, even just in their pet snakes that they're bringing home? And I said, it's very important to be able to have this as an option to discuss with clients. And that's all I want is I want people to be able to discuss this with their vet. Even if you test your animal and then take it to the vet and if it's really bad and then the vet's like, oh, we'll do a culture and give it some Baytril for the time being or whatever drug they dose to it, at least you've done your Nidovirus test. So you're not just like indefinitely jabbing your snakes like what we ended up doing, and your poor animal's just getting sour, like, because that's painful for them.
Oh yeah, it's an awful experience for both of you.
Yeah. So I mean,
I don't know how it is up in Canada, but in the US, sometimes it can take up to 2 weeks to get in with the vet because of COVID. So yeah, you can absolutely send out and get back within that 2-week time period a Nido test. Oh yeah, while you're waiting for the vet.
That's the same with us here. Like, we were lucky because our vet had an opening at that time for a new client. So we squigged right in there. But, it can take a while. And I'm like, there are things like you can do at home. Like, I do not believe in, I've heard people fogging their snakes with Vicks and eucalyptus and all of these things. Please don't. My God, please don't.
F10. That's popular here. Fog them with F10.
Don't. Yeah, here we got the Vicks and the eucalyptus, and I'm like, please don't. Like, just test your snake and take it to a vet. At least do the test though, because then either way. It's not like you wasted money. It's good to know your animal is healthy. It doesn't have a viral infection that will eventually kill it. Like,
I had a gravid snake pass away unexpectedly in the last month, and the very first thing I did was swab her and run a Boyd panel. Even though she has past negatives and her entire breeding group has past negatives, that was the first thing I did. Like, it's devastating to lose an animal. It's devastating to lose an animal that's gravid. But the very first thing I checked was, are we okay disease-wise? And she was negative. Her whole panel was negative. And so, there was some investigation afterwards to try to figure out what happened. But if you have an animal pass away, that should be your first instinct, is to check no matter how many negatives you have, especially if they're in an active breeding program.
And I can't push enough that you can nidovirus test your animal even after it has passed.
Yes.
I get so many pet people, and I get that you are grieving. I get that more than anyone else on the whole earth.
Absolutely. You get that to your core, like, totally get that.
I get it, but the worst thing you can do when you have a snake pass away unexpectedly is take it outside and bury it in your yard.
Right.
I get people who
without
do that
testing.
Without testing it. They just take it outside. I'm an approved contributor in an exotics vet page on Facebook, so we're not allowed to discuss like medication doses or anything like that. But it's just people will post in with like their snakes and they're like, hey, do you think this animal needs to go see a vet? And, you know, then we can reply like, yes, here's what I think is wrong with it. Here's things that you should take to the vet to discuss and go from there. So it's a super helpful group. So I'm one of their ACs specifically for snakes. The amount of people that I see that post in there and then they do an update and they're like, my snake died. And then I'll reply to their update and I'll be like, okay, you need to take that snake in for a necropsy. And they're like, oh no, I already buried it in my backyard. Like, that's the worst thing you can do. Now you have no idea what's going on. And if your other snakes are at risk, you're blinded. You have no idea if it died of crypto. Do you need to literally like trash your enclosure before you put another snake in it? Like, do you need to like, oh my God, I don't even know what kills that. Like, it's, you know
right.
what I mean?
You
like,
should see Jessica's face right now. You are preaching to her choir.
like, how do you know? How do you know? So, and then I have people who are like, yeah, like my snake passed away and like, I'm just going to like sell its enclosure and stuff. How do you do that? You're poor next person buying your enclosure.
Yeah.
Like, I'm sorry. I just had to go grab the FedEx at the door. So
no, totally understand. Real life happens.
Yes. So yeah, anything, and we haven't really heard a lot from Jessica too. So anything you want to like put in?
I just said that. Thank you.
I'm like, I feel like I'm talking so much. I'm sorry.
No, you're doing great. We were just talking about it. I was just trying to like, because we have talked for literally 19 episodes, almost exclusively about testing somehow, to give you space to say whatever you need to say without me just like repeating the thing I've already said for the last 20 hours of content. Yeah, I don't know how much you.
The same thing. As soon as you jumped off, I was like, "Why are you so quiet?"
Yeah, I apologize. I find I did this with the other. I did a YouTube with like Canadian HRP podcast or whatever, and I found that ours was like over 2 hours there, and I talked so much. And I'm sorry, like I apologize. I don't mean to be running over.
No, it's an interview to highlight you.
We want you to talk. You're doing fantastic, and we. Like, it's so refreshing to hear it come out of someone else's mouth rather than us just ad nauseum repeating ourselves.
Well, it's hard when you haven't gone through it yourself. And I get, I'm sure you guys have seen it online too. You get people who even post back to you and they say, oh, well, you need, 3+ nidovirus tests on every single snake in your whole collection. Like, with juveniles, we test like once to twice. Because they're not at risk, right?
Correct. Their risk category is very low.
Now, I mean, good thing that I figured this out before I brought in more retired breeder males, because that was like the whole thing Joob-Joob and Friends was founded on. But because retired breeder males, like they've been passed around to so many females, right? Because you're using one male on different females.
They're the highest risk.
They have the highest risk. So I am glad in a sense that we found out about it. And, Darth and Cinnamon Bun, like, I like to say that their deaths are not in vain, because there's so many people that have reached out to me and that I've helped at this point. So I'd like to say that in a way it was worth it for me to find out about this. I just had to find out the hard way.
The hard way, but you're helping other people prevent the hard way. I know we've said in a previous episode, like, people who come to you and they're literally their whole, 100+ collection is collapsing around them, and literally they're watching them die and they're messaging you and they're like, what do you do? And it's like, once someone gets to that point, it's terrible as it is to say, like, it's too late at that point. Like, we want to give this information to people, to make this information normalized and talked about in the daily, day-to-day news of the hobby before someone is literally sitting in the reptile room watching them all die. Like, we're trying to help prevent that and to advocate for that, and you are too. And it's so refreshing to have someone literally saying what you've been saying.
Thank you. And again, this is why I don't like dropping names. I don't like doing that. And again, like, it's not like don't go buy a snake or don't do this or don't do that, because you're at risk from everyone. Like, there's unless you have someone like ourselves that are getting into breeding or are breeding, and I can physically show you paperwork on every single animal that we have here. Like, as of yesterday, we have a total of 11 ball pythons. It's very manageable for me to have Nidovirus paperwork and go, all of these animals are negative. So you are safe if you buy an animal here. But I understand that can't be the reality for breeders that have been in the hobby for so long and they have like thousands of animals.
I don't know. People flex so hard with their stupid cars. You know, well, the high end, they could stop and spend $50,000 to test all their adults, and they probably wouldn't even bat an eye because they have the money to do that. So I almost wonder if it's like an actual excuse that we shouldn't be like holding their feet to the fire over.
I never want to assume someone's financial position, because again, like, I was very well off buying all these freedom breeders and buying the snakes and everything pre-pandemic, and you know, now I've had to go out and find a job, and my money situation is not the same as it was pre-pandemic. So I never like to sit there and assume any breeder's financial situation. And I do think that people act like they have a lot of money sometimes, and it's just for clout, and they don't, but they want to be considered, you know, a big player, because right. Who doesn't want to be the Justin Kabilka of ball pythons? I mean, we all dream of that. Like, he's an icon, right?
Right. There's a reason he's an icon.
Yeah, we all want the beautiful facility, and the reason he's an icon is because he has wonderful customer service, and he's a great person. And right. I know that, like, any animal you want to test from him, he's like, that's fine. He's just a very amicable person to work with in the hobby. All of the smaller breeders that I've dealt with have been extremely amicable. 2 of my snakes are from pear tree pythons who are local, pretty local to me in Canada, Ontario. I don't want to give out my exact city. Don't come to my house.
That's smart. Does he test, or does he? Is he just okay with you testing if you buy from him, Pear Tree?
Fine with me testing. So this, again, we have to realize that the testing really hasn't been that accessible to Canadians up until this point. So at this point, you know, the testing is good. We can do it. We've got a Joob-Joob coupon. If anyone wants to go test, they can. I've spoken to a couple larger breeders here that have high-end animals, and they do have plans to test their entire collections.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Yeah, it's client confidentiality because I'm dealing with them
for sure.
on a professional basis.
Right, we don't expect you to name names.
Yeah, it's not just me dealing with them on like here's a rando phone call sort of thing.
Right, even in the U.S., people are still pretty, especially if they're big names, are still pretty hush-hush and not advertising that they are testers when we feel like they should be, but they're not comfortable with it yet.
Yeah, so like a lot of what I mean by the smaller breeders being amicable here is they've been very good about me testing. And about me being like very public with those test results as well. Like when I was going through the whole Nidovirus thing with Darth and Cinnamon Bun, like I had Marshmallow and Baby Coconut. So those snakes, what if they pop positive on the next test? You know, like I just have told all of the breeders that I've bought snakes from all the way along that, you know, if their animals pop positive, it's not my goal to go out and publicly like destroy their business. That's never something that I want to do or that I will do. But
right, it's about educating them for future.
Yeah, well,
not about shaming them publicly.
Exactly. I just said, if your animal tests positive, I'll send you a private message. I'll send you the test results, and we can just go from there. I have no doubt in my mind that all of those breeders would be super professional. Like, I have Sir Sprinkles from Canadian Regis. She has a very healthy collection. Like, I've seen how she cares for her animals. It is phenomenal. Never seen a breeder have a more clean setup than Nicole.
Yeah, Nicole is one of the people I wished was in the U.S.
Oh, her stuff is so good. So we got Sir Sprinkles from her, and she's just a wonderful person. And, she was perfectly fine with us testing. We said, yeah, we're going to bring Sprinkles home because we had just got done dealing with all of this Nido stuff. And I said she had been holding him for us because I said, I do not want to bring Sprinkles home into this hellish Nidovirus situation.
Right, until you have more answers.
So she said, no problem, I'll hold on to him for you. So she held on to him until we had the other snakes euthanized. I told her I wanted our racks to be bleached twice and then sit for an entire month with nothing in them. That's how hardcore I was.
No, that's amazing. Like,
yeah,
thank you. Yes, that's what you should do.
Well, I told her, I said, I don't want your snake, so Sir Sprinkles, he was a failure to thrive out of the egg. So he already kind of had a tough start. And I said, I don't want to bring him into the Nidovirus factory. Like, right. Poor little guy. She was great. We tested him. He was negative. Every snake that we have is negative. Even my 2 Axanthics are from Ball Brilliance in California. Obviously, I've never met Matt. So I reached out to Matt and I said, hey, I really, really want some TSK Axanthics because nobody in Canada deals with them. And I feel like they're beautiful. We're all looking at JD Constriction stuff being like, oh yeah, that looks so good. We all want black and white ball pythons. They look nice. So, but I told Matt, I said, he actually didn't have the clutch, hadn't hatched at that point, but he knew with his pairing, like pretty much what was going to come out of it. And I said, I would like to get a snake from you. But I'm very nervous about, you having it until we can import it to Canada because the weather just wasn't right. And we had like 6 months to go. And I'm like, I'm nervous about, it maybe getting something from your collection. I have never had I shouldn't say I never have had, the customer service from him. Oh my God. It was amazing. If I could recommend a breeder in the States, it's like Matt from Ball Brilliance. He's just
and he
incredible.
Let you be really transparent on Joob-Joob about it. I remember following your whole process with him. Like you were very transparent about the interactions between you two and the ability to test and how nervous you were because of the experience you had just gone through. And he was there and happy that you were talking about it.
He was, and the thing is, I told him that. And he said, I haven't had, he's got a very small collection. And he said, I have not had RIs in my collection. But he said, I understand how you're nervous. So once you pick your snake that you want, I'll set it aside for you in a separate area until it can get to Canada. And I said, wow, the customer service on this guy.
Right, incredible. That's amazing.
Incredible. So I ended up buying 2 off of him from that same clutch. They're Cookie and Licorice are both full sisters because he set them aside in a different area. He fed them differently. He got them on frozen thawed for me. I mean, what a guy.
Yeah, that's amazing.
All right, random aside real quick. I heard a rumor that MJ Axanthic was actually tested against TSK and they were the same. How do you feel about that?
Okay. I just heard this at the expo.
I know, it's crazy.
Talking to me about things. They're like, hey, Caila, so are you should put your, because Mark lives 2 hours away from me. They're like, you should put your TSK Axanthics with an MJ Axanthic and just see what happens. And this is not the first time I'm hearing this, so I don't know.
It was crazy. I think I've heard it.
The skin testing?
Yeah, they're the same.
Oh.
Because apparently Mark never tested against TSK originally, just VPI. And that's how he knew it was different than VPI. But I heard that yesterday. I had a breeder telling me that people are starting to think that the MJs are the same as the TSKs. And I said, I don't, obviously I don't know. I don't even have a clutch on the ground. So right. I said, my female is 2 years off from being ready to go. So I said, I don't know. But I'm that would actually be kind of cool
because I feel like TSK's been pretty diluted at this point, and the MJ line is still very, like, the colors pop and they're very strong. And I still think that, like, in quotations, the true lightning pieds, like the MJ Xanthic pieds, look significantly better to me than the TSK pieds. And I know that, like, blah, blah, blah with Axanthic, it's all about buying quality animals, because if you don't buy really high quality Xanthics, they're just brown like a poo pile.
Right.
They look terrible. So that's why, like, our stock is, like, all of Matt's stuff is from JD Constriction. So we knew we were getting pretty much, like, top of the line quality. But the TSK Axanthic pieds, they're very, like, yellowy compared to, I've seen quite a few of the lightning pieds, and they're very, like, rich and dark and gray. And then especially with people have been mixing them with Orange Dream now, and those are really banging. Like, those things are so nice. They're a very, like, light gray, but they're very strong looking still. And I'm like, man, wouldn't that be cool though if we could put the TSK with the MJ? Like, the things we could do.
right away instead of waiting.
Opens up.
Yeah, and you have so much MJ up there already. You could. Yeah, you wouldn't have to go through the importation process just to get.
Yeah, it's all MJ. Like, I know Nicole is working with, like, black Axanthic, which I don't really know anything about.
It's the best. Sorry.
It's the
MJ.
absolute best.
Yeah,
oh my gosh.
She has a black Axanthic DG clutch this year for visual.
Yeah.
What, that fucking bitch? That bitch. I'm going to go up there and marry her and give her a visa.
Yes.
Watch out.
Marry her. Not if I marry her.
I know. We're going to have to fight over.
Half those snakes are mine now. But yeah, I saw her black Axanthic, like, female, and oh my god, it looked so good. Like, I was like, wow,
it's amazing.
It's amazing.
So amazing.
And then I know we have a lot of VPI. Now, I've seen some really nice VPI stuff. Don't get me wrong, but VPI is not my favorite line. I think that it's a little bit darker and more silvery. And I like that very, like, black and white contrast. I don't really like when they silver out a lot. But I have seen some, like, killer, like, VPI spot nose calico stuff that's on Morph Market right now. And I'm like, blah, blah, blah. Like, give me that. Like, that looks really good. You know, all of that stuff. And, like, even yesterday, I just bought high Orange Dream calico. And I'm kind of like, I bought him as a male. And I'm kind of like, what if I just, like, put that with the Axanthics, though, and then we just had, like, Orange Dream, TSK, Calico, Axanthics. Like, we could just have the whole pile. We could make a bunch of hats, and then we could just get the party going. And I don't know. There's so many things to do with Axanthic. It's an untouched territory.
Yeah, the hard part with Axanthic is selling them to normal people, because they're like, to me, like, on a show table, the normal human is like, I don't want a black and white snake. I want a purple, orange, banana, you know, just like the
banana. Hey, it's so funny that you
want
banana.
That.
Right.
Everybody wants banana.
Everyone wants bananas, and everyone wants blue-eyed Lucy's. And I gotta tell you, it's because blue-eyed Lucy's are an extremely cheap, pure white snake. So I get why people want them, because they're pretty much the best-looking thing that you can get at that price point. Like, here. And then bananas, too. Like, everyone... I don't know, man. Bananas have cute faces. Do you guys know what I'm saying? Like, bananas have really adorable faces.
My daughter's prized
I think it's the contrast between the really dark eyes and the really sort of light, you know.
They're adorable.
Right.
They are really cute. Like, I'll be straight up with you guys. My least favorite morphs are clown. Clown. It's gonna get me hate here. I don't like clown. I think it's
World War III, it's gonna start today. USA versus Canada.
I have a lot of clown, but it is not my favorite.
Yeah, it is my favorite.
No, it's just very, like, you see it in everything now, because I find, like, when the big boys start playing with stuff, then everyone else wants to start playing with stuff, and I think, like, everyone is into clown. And I'm sitting here and I'm like, sure, clown. I don't hate any ball python, because they're all ball pythons, and ball pythons are just amazing. But I don't think I'll have clown in my collection. I just don't really like it. Another one, okay, I despise scaleless ball pythons.
Oh, yeah. Hey, okay,
them.
you're a keeper.
Like, I don't know, man. Are we allowed to be like kind of rude on here?
Yeah, fuck yeah.
Sure. Yeah, fuck yeah.
They kind of like they're kind of like a dick skin.
Oh yeah, 100%.
I always post they're like
Jessica
they're like
has said they're the penis snake.
They are the penis.
Yeah, it's like a penis with Muppet eyes glued on it.
That sheds like way more than all your other ones. Yeah, like I don't know, man. Scaleless is not for me. I think that's like an abomination.
It's wrong. Yes, I agree.
Everyone who has scaleless is like, yeah, I'm gonna breed my female this year, and it's like, where are the eggs?
Where are the eggs? There was a picture of a female on eggs, but people said that it was fake, and
there was a joke picture.
So that wasn't real?
I don't think so.
I don't think anyone.
It's too hard to be a ball python that sheds every 2 weeks and ever get to size. Think of all like the protein and energy needed to shed constantly.
Especially if they don't eat when they're
they don't eat necessarily.
You don't know if that snake's going to be one that eats.
So even if they can make eggs successfully in their ovaries, they're not a good breeder anyway. You know, like it's not a good project because they're not good at breeding because they're not good at growing successfully. So like, it doesn't matter.
They're just a bunch of dick skin.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know.
Well, and even that, like, you can't give a penis snake to a pet home, even if they have the money to spend, because they don't know what they're doing. Like, people that do know what they're doing that are like super invested in this project are still challenged in keeping these things alive.
Right. And killing them at a non-zero rate, even though they're quote unquote supposed to be good at it.
Scaleless is weird. No thanks for me. That's all.
No
I'm
thanks.
Saying.
Hard no.
No thank you from me. Never will have a scaleless. I've touched one and I'm like, yeah, I can just go, touch some dick whenever I need to feel that again. Like, I'm good.
All right, real talk for a second. I'm scared to touch one because I might like it. I might be like, oh yeah, whoa.
Oh, baby,
this is reminding me of the good times. And now I'm like, I love it. I want it as a pet, not sexually, just as a pet, but I'm like into it.
We'll forgive you a little bit because your husband is on mission.
Oh, fuck, he's gone.
We need to get you a scale.
Poor buddy.
You gotta chill over there, man.
Oh,
it's spicy.
I know. And I worry about that with corn snakes because corn snakes do better as scaleless because they have a little bit more scales.
I feel like they do fine.
They don't. Yeah, they do okay. But I'm scared. I still think they look dumb. But I'm scared if I get one pops out because it's recessive and it just happens, I'll be like, I love this little dick snake so much. He's my new friend.
Oh, man.
And then I'll be like tricked into it because of how, penis. I don't know.
How weird they look.
Probably should put myself back on mute.
I don't want any cock snakes over here. None of those.
Right.
What?
I agree.
The uncircumcised cock snakes. I'm good. Don't need them. Got some dick skin over here with the husband. If I need that, that's fine. So, oh man, like no. So yeah, clown and dick skin snakes are nope. And then there was one other one that I really just am not really a fan of. I forget now, probably because I never look at it because I don't care. So just anything that's like very brown. I think that like if you want a brown snake, like we can just get some normals that have like no health issues and they grow like massive.
Right.
Yes.
So I'm not a big fan of even like Mr. Fudge. So Mr. Fudge is my chocolate pinstripe. So I got Mr. Fudge purely because he's very stretchy and he likes to be an art connoisseur. So when I was walking around with him, he was stretching out and like putting his face on things on the wall. And I was like, yeah, you're perfect.
You're fun. Right.
You're fun. Yeah. He's very like, he's a very in your face snake. Like he likes stuff.
Those are kind of my favorite kind, that personality. When you open their bins and they just like pop up into the little periscope and they're like, what are we going to do today? Those are awesome snakes.
And like he's very friendly too. Like he's old. I got told he's a 2016, and I'm like, no, he's not, because he has cataracts on his eyes. So he's not a 2016. But thanks. So no, he's very old. Like he has like cataracts and stuff. He's getting up there, but he's a very friendly snake. But if I love him because of his inherent temperament, definitely not because of the chocolate pinstripe. What a boring combination that is. Like
Right.
Brown.
Yes.
I do like chocolate though. Chocolate's nice. Corey Woods has a lot of chocolate.
All by itself, though, it's kind of like, yeah.
It's that super
Okay.
chocolate that gives me the weirdest lady boner of all time.
He's like he's a very rich looking morph. I like snakes with white up their sides. There's a trend. Like I know I'm bad. I have like 4 spiders because I love them all. Would I breed them? Like, probably not. Oh my god, this is a whole other discussion. No,
Right,
we're not
this
going
is a whole
there.
other episode.
That's a whole nother episode. Maybe we can do that one at some time. I've seen varying wobble. Yeah, I think a lot of it, they all inherently have a wobble, but I think a lot of it is husbandry, because mine are all quite good. But, I love that white up the sides. And that's why I'm gravitating so much more towards calico now, because I can do that white up the sides without having the neurological issues.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So anything with white up the sides, though, like you'll see, or even white on the snake, like Sir Sprinkles, he's a sugar bee, so he's very white and black. Like Popsicle, he's black and, or sorry, not black, he's white and orange. Like Lucas is a lesser bee entry, so he has all the white up his side. Madam is a black bee, she has all the white up her side. Like I have a very like trendy thing with my white snakes. I like white all over them.
Well, calico's really coming up in terms of its
Popularity.
perception as like a
Right.
morphable gene again. So getting into calico and mixing that with TSK, I think it was a great idea.
Very good
and
idea.
It's so fun because I only need one. Unfortunately, like with the TSK, you need both parents to have the TSK, right?
Right.
Right.
But with the calico, it's like, cool, I only need one. And then I can just get it in there. Yeah, I love the calico. I think that it's such an awesome gene. Calico is definitely one of my favorites. Spider for pets, I love them. They just eat like crazy, and they're just
They're
great
the best
snake.
eaters, and they're the sweetest snakes.
They are.
I don't
like,
know if it's because they're a little derpy upstairs, but my favorite snake, my Nido boy, is a bumblebee, and seriously, and one of my daughters, her snake is a bumblebee, and it's like they are sweethearts.
I've heard that like there are certain, I don't have enough of the same morph to be able to tell if this is true, but I feel like there are certain morphs that are just like a bag of dicks. Like I've heard that puzzle, a lot of the puzzle ones are just like really crummy temperaments. I've never met a single banana that has been a mean banani. They are all
of them are sweet. Yes.
Yeah, they're all sweethearts. The blue-eyed Lucies are all like Marshmallow is probably one of my most friendly, outgoing snakes.
I've heard that as well. Yeah.
Yeah, the bells. The spiders are usually sweet, although I always tell Kyle that they're a few crayons short of a box. Because I feel like they are really sweet, but there's not really
a lot upstairs.
Yeah, there's not a lot. Like Lucas, he'll sit on the couch with you for like 2 hours. He won't move. Like he's the best personality. Oh, are we still here?
Yeah.
Yep. Okay, my phone is just like 10% battery, and I'm like,
oh no, yeah.
It'll be fine. He's a very sweet snake, and then I don't really have any that are dicks. I find that the dreamsicles, from what I've seen too, are very placid. Those lavender albinopides, they're very like placid temperaments. Popsicle is really, really derpy. He's just really like friendly and derpy. That's the best way to describe him.
Yeah, I found that my pieds are kind of jerks.
Really? Okay.
And they're terrible, terrible eaters, which I've heard said other places.
Oh, yeah, Cinnamon Bun was really good. But, I mean, that's probably because he was kept as a pet for so long. So he was just a great eater, and he also had a great temperament. He was just the best. But, yeah, Popsicle, there's not a mean bone in that thing's body. Like, but he would die outside. There's no way he would.
Aw,
Like, if
little
you
buddy.
were like,
No one's
hey,
dropping my dinner into my mouth.
yeah, like, so Popsicle, he's really bad because he doesn't even strike off the tongs half the time. You have to like drop feed him, and I like if his rat isn't, because I feed frozen thoughts. Usually I feed wet, but if Popsicle's rat is not perfectly bone dry, there's no way he's touching it. So I'm like blow drying his rat on the floor, and I'm like putting it right in front of his face. And I remember Kyle the other night, he's like, isn't it so convenient, Popsicle, that the rat just dies right in front of your face and you can just eat it? Like, oh my God. So yeah, he's a funny snake. Oh, I feel like I did a couple shout outs to some really good Canadian breeders, but I'm also very good friends with Ink's Lady Morph out of Georgia. When Kyle and I got engaged, so we got engaged in December of last year. Thank you. So we ended up going from Canada to Florida. So we went for 2 weeks, and we had never we had never met Cat and Roe in person, anything like that. And they actually ended up driving from Georgia to Florida and like staying at our hotel with us.
Oh, cool.
And we hung out with them. It was the first time. You know, it can be dicey when you meet up with people on the internet because you're not really sure how it's gonna go.
No idea
Where your
We were
kidneys
like,
are gonna go.
Yeah, like we're like, okay, good thing we got like separate hotel rooms at least, just in case this goes south.
right.
And we had such a great time with them, and man, just the way that they talk about their snakes, and I've seen a ton of like behind the scenes footage of how they care for their animals and stuff now, because we literally talk every single day. I don't think there's been a day that we haven't talked since that Florida
she's in
trip.
the women's breeder group online on Facebook, and that's actually how I learned about you, is that I follow her on Instagram, and you guys did a live that you didn't end up posting because it was you talking about Billy.
We did post. We did. So that one we were just kind of like shooting the shit, like what we did for the first like 10 minutes of this, and then. But we turned it on live, so we kind of shot the shit live, and then I was like, yeah, we probably just like shouldn't post this.
Right. But that's how I first like quote unquote met you or was introduced to you, is that I follow her because we're in a Facebook group and you guys went on a live and I watched it. So that's pretty fun that you guys got to meet up and go on vacation.
Yeah, it was awesome. We met up, like we went to like Universal Studios, went to Harry Potter together, like riding the Hogwarts Express, and it was an amazing time. And we keep in touch with them all the time, and I've actually got them on the Nidovirus train now.
Oh, good. That's wonderful.
Yeah, they're like a smaller breeder as well, but I know that they want to keep growing their collection and stuff. And I said, like, start out now, like do things right.
Absolutely.
Like Nido test like all of your new ones that came in, and they did. They Nido tested all of the new ones that came in, and I think that we can definitely expect great things from them, not just because I'm personally friends with them.
Just because they're very ethically minded and open-minded, and they care a lot about their animals.
A lot, like even because we were kind of having a discussion the other day about like when you need to get rid of some of your ones that are just like rat eaters, like they're just sitting in your collection doing nothing, just eating all your rats and costing you money. Yeah, the freeloaders. I have a few of those, but they won't go anywhere. Yeah, the freeloaders. So she has some freeloaders, and then she was like, oh, but I don't really want to get rid of this one because I love him. And how upset she was getting over like getting rid of this one snake. And I'm like, dude, I can tell that you love these things like just as much as all of us, you know what I mean?
And it's okay to have a couple of freeloaders if you love them. Like,
that's what
even if it's a business, like you can have pets that don't contribute to your business.
I told her, I said, pick 10 freeloaders because that's pretty much where we're at. Like we have like, oh my, like Joob-Joob's a freeloader. He's staring at me right now. He's like, no, I'm not. He's a freeloader for sure. Like, what am I going to do with a lesser Enchi? Like, good one, maybe 10 years ago.
Right. Yeah. Each member of my family is allowed one freeloader.
Oh, sweet. Yeah, you have to have a freeloader. And then, like, obviously, like, Mr. Fudge is a freeloader. And, like, Madam, I would never breed Madam. Like, I don't know. Who cares? Like, Black Bee, meh. Yeah, no, then like pretty much all of them. Except for the TSK Axanthics are freeloaders, and this new like high OD calico that I got is not going to be a freeloader. It's like you need to go to work, eat the food.
Right. You have a job to do besides just being beautiful.
Yes, you can't just look sexy. You have to go make sexy. Get to work. So
that's what I say to my husband.
Oh, Jessica's back.
I'm back.
Jessica, are you okay over there? You had to like take a little break from.
No, I had to go to the baño. I didn't think I needed to announce, but I can right now. Baño.
Thought you had to take a little break after our dick skin snake concert.
Oh no, I love dick skin. That's fine.
Take a cold shower.
Ooh.
You gotta calm down here. It's spicy.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead, Jessica.
No, I think we're sort of wrapping up here. I have to go get my kid.
More.
Yep.
I'm sure that like I can't even imagine people that make it to like however long we've been doing this. Like if you make it 3 hours into this podcast, congratulations. You know what?
They deserve a gold star.
They get spoiled at the end though. Like
right, all the sad stuff was at the beginning. The good juicy dick skin jokes are at the end. So
yeah.
So you do have a massive Instagram following. Do you have any Instagram tips for people who are trying to grow? I mean, yours isn't a business per se. You're more of an advocate for husbandry and other things right now. But for people who are trying to grow their following, who are trying to get out there in the ball python world, how did you do that, or what tips would you give someone?
Well, half of my following really just came from Snack the Hissing Booth. I'll be honest, because I got like, well, not half, but I probably got like 7,000 followers just from that group when it was a thing, because Joob-Joob ended up becoming a meme in that group, and then he was just
have seen his meme. Yeah, he's passed around quite a lot.
Yeah, he was like the meme lord of the group. That's why his name is Lord Joob-Joob, because he was the meme lord of the whole thing. Like he was literally the banner picture for like months. Lord Joob-Joob with log, like Lord Joob-Joob had a whole arc where people were like making fanfic with him.
Oh.
Where, like, it was like not weird fanfic, but like I'm not even gonna say weird fanfic. We all read fanfic.
Oh, I know. I had to introduce Jana to fanfic like 3 episodes ago.
I'm still trying it. I'm like,
and I was like, bitch, what are you doing? How did you get through high school?
Send me some of your favorite fanfic.
Yeah, but I'm into like yaoi, so like, how much of that are you interested in?
I don't even know what that is.
No, don't. We're not going there with us.
Oh, sorry. That's a whole other episode too.
When one boy and another boy love them a lot.
Okay. We're not going there in this podcast.
A little bit. We can go a little bit. Just the tip.
But so Joob-Joob, people were writing like little, like even comics with Joob-Joob about like he had this log that was like way too small for him, and I eventually had to take it away because he kept getting stuck in it. But he was Lord of Log for the longest time, and we had people like drawing pictures of him like inside of his log and like building up his snack army and like commanding all of the snacks to like overthrow the humans from the comfort of his log. And then he would like sit, because he would always periscope on this log too at night. So I have all these photos of him like periscoping.
I was just gonna say, I can think of the periscoping photo of him and his cute little face. Like that was passed around a lot on the internet in the groups.
Yeah, so we had like him periscoping on the log, and then I ended up making like stickers and t-shirts of him on the log, and they say Lord of Log, and the amount of t-shirts that were going out on the Lord of Log, that was pretty crazy. We have a Redbubble, by the way, that still has that up if anyone would like a Lord of Log shirt. But
all right, sweet.
Yeah. Like the whole following, like to get the account off the ground, because that's probably the hardest point for people, and that really got boosted by him being so popular in Snack the Hissing Booth, and then that group got shut down by Facebook, and it's never got revitalized. So after that, I just started posting, like I tried to get really boopable photos of them, so like where their snoots are really cute looking,
where they're pointing like towards the camera with like a
I angle my phone like right under their snooters. All these snakes are so good now, they don't even care about me taking their photos because they're just like, okay, cool.
They're just like, admire me, yes, I'm beautiful.
Yeah, pretty much. So But I try to do a lot of good stuff for the community too, and I think people like that. So I try to do a lot of husbandry stuff. In a lot of my posts, I'll talk about like, here's, the substrate, or what you should do for like the best substrate for ball pythons, or like, here are some really good examples of larger hides for adult ball pythons, because I know that people have a lot of trouble finding those if they want to do a PVC. Like, it's just, I try really hard to like cater to the care and the community with the ball pythons. So I think people follow along because the snakes are really cute. And you can tell by my Instagram that the snakes they're not just snakes. Like, I'm very involved with them. And you can also tell that I don't really spare expense with my time on helping people. I'm always there answering questions, answering whatever people need me to talk about. I've had people ask me to make thermostat videos, so I've done that. Like, pretty much anything that you would like me to do to help you with your snake, I will do, besides me going to pick it up and taking it myself.
Right. So you've been really accessible.
Very, and that's the whole thing. I feel like Joob-Joob and Friends is just another, it's literally my video game collectibles business, but snakes. I try to be very accessible with my collectibles business. It's on Facebook. I think we have like 25,000 people on Facebook for my business page too. And that's a business page where we're literally posting plush toys, because I'm very active with my customers, asking them what Pokemon they would like to see. And that's the same. I do the exact same thing with Joob-Joob. I'm like, hey, like, who do you guys want to see next week? Or like, blah, blah, blah. So I would say just posting frequently and then being accessible to your fan base, because you never know when a fan follower is going to turn into someone who becomes a client later on down the road.
Right. And that's what a lot of breeders and things like that's their intention, is to be visible and available if someone wants to be a client or customer.
Exactly. But then you also get breeders who just not that this was a bad transaction, but I was going to buy a snake from someone who's pretty well known in the hobby. And I talked with them for a while, and I said, I'd like to buy the animal, but it's very expensive. Like, it was going to cost me in the thousands. This isn't a cheapo snake. And I said, I would like to see a video of you taking it out of its tub. That's all I asked for. I said, video of you just reaching into its tub and taking it out. This lets me see a few different things. Number one, it lets me see the inherent temperament of the animal in its environment, because you're entering its enclosure. Number two, it allows me to see what it's being kept in, so I can replicate that as much as possible once it gets here, so that it's more comfortable. And number three, it allows me to see the actual snake without filters and stuff in a photo on Morph Market.
Right.
So there's multiple different reasons why I asked for a quick video of the snake being taken out of the tub. And the person makes a video for me, but they make a video of them. It's like a 6-second video of them with the snake just on a table and them booping its face in so that it stays in that position. And I said, well, to be fair, I asked you specifically like what I wanted. And I said, you've given me a video of you just like booping its face in. Like, that doesn't really show me the temperament of the snake. That doesn't really show me anything except what it looks like, and that like when you boop its face in, it'll stay in a ball on the table. Like I said, it doesn't show me what I need to be shown for me to spend thousands of dollars. And then he told me that I would be better off buying a snake locally than buying from him if that's what I wanted. And I was like, you're willing to turn down thousands of dollars? Like, I didn't say anything. I just said, okay, that's cool. Have a good one. I don't want to do business with you if you can't make me a 10-second video of you taking the snake out of its tub. It's not that hard.
Which you had to do anyway to make the video that you sent me.
Exactly. I'm like, exactly. So I'm like, I don't see what the big deal of this was. To me, it's just, again, it's lazy customer service. And I don't want to be a client of someone who just has lazy or bad customer service. Like, no thanks. I want to establish really good relationships with the breeders that I have their animals, because their animals are my family and they're important to me. So, you know, I'm like, I can't very well go and be like, oh yeah, you know, I'm going to just buy this snake off of this really crappy video then. Like, no, it just doesn't work that way.
Right. Especially, you know, I don't want to put like a dollar amount on an animal's life equals a certain amount of whatever, but like it seems more and more obvious that they would be wanting to give better customer service for a higher dollar amount, because then they're being paid for their time. You're just like, why wouldn't you want to? But
well, I'm like, dude, the snake was in the US, so it's like I have to import it into Canada. So I'm like, I have to go through the entire importation process. Like, I have to pay in USD. I'm like, dude, this is not going to be cheap at the end of the day. Like, you can send me a 10-second video. Again, I wasn't rude about it. I had already asked for it twice. So the fact that they sent a different video and then they were like, is this video okay? I just replied back and I was like, no, that's not what I asked for. I really do want to see the video that I asked for. And then they were like, yeah, you should just buy your snake locally. It's like, well, I can't. That's why I'm going to the US, because I can't buy it locally. But, you know, cool story. I said, yeah, cool, no problem, have a good one. Like, I don't care, no hard feelings, but I'm not going to deal with you if you have bad customer service. Like, the end.
Right. We get lots of bad customer service in the U.S.
So much bad customer service,
especially
if you're talking about disease testing or
anything,
biosecurity, or, oh, you have a podcast and you're a Karen, fuck you, I won't do business with you. Like, it's fun.
Well, this is what, like, people wonder why Justin Kabilka has so many followers. It is not just the snakes that guy is producing. Okay, he will go out of his way to have him or one of his staff send you a message back. He has, like, even Ink's Lady Morphs. I know that they wrote him because they were having a really hard time IDing a clutch. And they said, this is, like, really, really hard, and we don't know, and we don't want to sell these babies as the wrong things. And he helped them out. Like, it's not...
he's known as being accessible to anyone in the community, no matter who you are.
Exactly. It doesn't... Look, I know time is money, and everyone says that. This is coming from someone who, you know, I like money too. Everyone likes money. But you also need to understand that part of being in this hobby is the time that you're going to dedicate to fellow keepers. Because the more people that we get in here and they're having a great time and they're really enjoying keeping and they've got healthy animals, like, it just promotes the hobby in a good light. And that's the same with testing and stuff too. Like, I remember when we had horses, we had to get, like, Coggins tests and stuff for them to do, to travel internationally. And we had to have a whole bunch of paperwork, and there was always, you know, stuff going on with the horses to make sure, you know, that they didn't have communicable viruses. And we do this with dogs. Like, we have, like, dogs that are, I don't really know much about dogs, but we have, like, parvovirus and, like, bordetella. Right. And, like, you know, we do this with every other animal. And I don't understand why the health of these animals is such a low priority to so many people in the community. It boggles my mind. I've said it before and I've said it again. If you don't have the money to properly be in the hobby, you need to take a step back and build until you have the money to properly be in the hobby.
Right.
Absolutely.
Right. You know, shouldn't nickel and dime your quote unquote supposed ball python breeding collection that's supposed to make you millions of dollars.
Animals are animals. We shouldn't be, like, I understand people who are relying on this as a full-time income, but if you want to rely on this as a full-time income, I don't understand why you wouldn't do everything in your power to make sure that these snakes are healthy and they're going to be viable for you long term. Because if you spend 2 or 3 years growing up a breeder female, I don't want my breeder female to die the first time it gets stressed out and lays a clutch and that's all mucusy and it's like having a terrible time.
Right.
I mean, them becoming egg bound, like them, you know, there's things that can happen and those things are unfortunately unavoidable and we have to deal with them in the moment. But with these other things that are completely avoidable and preventable and that could save your entire collection, I don't understand why we're not doing them it's preventative maintenance to
Why it's
ensure
not
that
a highest priority.
Exactly. You're ensuring that the investment that you've already made, because this hobby, if you do it correctly, is an extreme investment. Like, not from the racks that you're buying to the snakes that you're investing in to the food that you're bringing in every week or every 2 weeks for them. Everything with it is an investment. So wouldn't you want to protect that investment to the best of your ability? It seems like logical business sense to me.
Part of your foundation is that they're healthy and going to be healthy long term. It absolutely, from this side of ball python keeping, is absolutely makes sense, and it's very frustrating that you can't get people to see that or understand that logic.
But we do have more people who are coming in and figuring it out. Like, even one of the large breeders that I talked to that are interested in testing their entire collection here, they were asking me, like, what the best way to do that would be? What's the best way to document it and keep records to show clients? And, like, should they be testing the babies before they go out? And I'm like, well, no, like, the better way would be to test all the adults and then keep, like, paperwork records, because the accession forms that, like, Fish Head and stuff sends you, what we do is we just keep adding snakes to that one accession form. So we have in brackets beside each snake's name their particular accession number and the last date that they were tested on. And then we just keep adding to the list. And then we have a whole record of all of the snakes that have been tested, the dates that they were tested, and that they've all popped negative. It's pretty nice to be able to whip that out and be like, here you go, client. Here's Joob-Joob, who was paired with, Buckaroo over here, and negative. Like, we've got everyone in the whole collection negative.
Yeah, so the stuff we get from RAL is a little bit different, because it's like the sample and then what the animal's name and stuff is there, but like what tests were run at that time. So I end up keeping like a compiled spreadsheet of which animals were run on which day for which test and their statuses, and then the original PDFs from him. And it's not super convenient, but I'm hoping whenever Morph Market Not For Sale sort of expands and you can upload the PDF documents of like vet or medical tests to your for sale ads, it'll be more obvious that there's like a chain of 3 tests on this one over 3 years and 2 tests on this one over 3 years. And those were the parents. And so you could like document each one that way.
That's perfect. Or, you know what you could do, what every small business owner has, even for my small business with the plush toys, we have to keep all of our import invoices and stuff. Like, everything's coming into Canada, so it has a paper trail. It's called Get a File Cabinet, and like buy one and like get like a shitload of folders. Like, I don't care, go to like AliExpress and get 5,000 of them, or like go to Uline or like wherever you go, get a bunch of folders, write your snake's name on it, and then write the morph. And if it's like, male or female, like 1.0 or 0.1, like whatever you want, and then put its morph, when it was born. For us, we just know the years, so we just list the year. Stick everything for that particular snake into its file folder. If you've ever had to take it to the vet, all of its vet paperwork goes into that file folder. Put everything alphabetical in your filing cabinet. You can pull it for any client that's coming over to pick up a snake.
Right.
Here's a whole file folder. Here's how much of a shit I give. Here, like, I don't care how many snakes you have. It's not that hard to leaf through an alphabetical file folder. Like, do it by...
Yeah, and you can do this without even printing it out. You could make like digital copies and like split the PDFs up and sort them that way.
There's so many ways to do it. It's like there's so many ways to do it so that you can be organized. I don't know. I don't know how people run businesses and they're just like all willy-nilly with everything, and then like their tax time comes around, they're like, oh my god, I owe like $20,000, and you're like, what is happening? I don't get how you can be that disorganized when you're running a small business. Like, everything has a paper trail. So, I just like look forward to like getting Morph Market. I know Morph Market had an explicit sort of pro testing position that they had to roll back, but like once we get like the tacit testing sort of enthusiasm, because they give us a spot to be like, hey, look,
here's 3 negative tests over 3 years, and it's on the ad, that's the evidence I have for the quality of the snake. People are going to start looking at them and be like, oh. Because I write in, like, I tested this male because he's finished with me at this date and he was negative by this lab. But maybe that's not enough for people. Maybe if they physically look at the reports, maybe that'll trigger something in their brain. Because my, like, terms of service is covered in, like, biohazard information and what my guarantees are and how many days you have to test before needing to send it back if it's a positive or whatever. But most people still don't give a shit. They don't read any of that. They're just like,
they don't care.
Yeah, like, so, like, I mean, that's like a value add. I've, like, given you time to test, and I've told you how much testing I've done to this animal and its parents or whatever. Most people don't care. They just want to get $200 off because they're cheap.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think you will start to find more people that do care, though. I was actually kind of floored when I bought the snake yesterday, and he was like, I've never had anyone ask me for this before. And I was like, holy shit.
Yeah.
Really?
So I've had people
like,
message me to, like, thank God you do this or whatever. But that's probably 1 in 20 or something.
It just and he was super good. Like, it wasn't anything. He was just surprised because no one's really brought it to him before. And I said, it just kind of made me think, like, it's just, he's like one of the bigger guys. Like, he had beautiful animals. Obviously, that's why I got one. There's just so many people who still don't know about it. And because for him to have not been asked, not once, and he's been doing this for a long time, like, I'm sure because he has boas as well, and he was talking to me about arena virus and stuff. He was very fluent on that. But with the ball pythons, I feel like people it's just really by the wayside. They're just like, oh, cool, a ball python. They bring it home. But I don't get it, man. Like, some of these ball pythons are like $20,000. How are we not doing it?
I don't know. We just have to change the culture. Yeah, the boa people are correctly scared of arena virus and are sort of primed to be ready to be scared about Nido and willing to do the right things to work through it. Mm-hmm. Not all boa people. A lot of boa people fucking suck. Let me not be clear. But more boa people know that arena virus is a problem and is worth testing for, and so are ready to do what's right. Future Jessica here. We again had a terrible failure, and the last 5 minutes or so of the audio file are missing, which sucks. But we just went on to talk about a little bit more of boa people maybe being more open to testing because they've been sort of sensitized to the issues of contagious diseases. And then we said our goodbyes and thanked Caila for coming on. Thank you, Caila. You can reach out to her if you want at Joob-Joob the Snake on Instagram. That's pretty much your only place. And you can always reach us at the Holdback Right Podcast on Instagram. Thank you for listening. Hopefully I'll figure OBS out or I'll throw it in the trash. I'm not sure. All right. See you later, guys. Bye.